Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 1. All wisdom comes from the Lord. She is with him forever. The sands of the sea, the drops of rain, the days of eternity. Who can count them? The height of the sky, the breadth of the earth, the depth of the abyss. Who can explore them? Wisdom was created before everything. Prudent understanding subsists from remotest ages. For whom has the root of wisdom ever been uncovered? Her resourceful ways, who knows them? One only is wise, terrible indeed, seated on his throne, the Lord. It was he who created, inspected and weighed her up, and then poured her out on all his works, as much to each living creature as he chose, bestowing her on those who love him. The fear of the Lord is glory and pride, happiness and a crown of joyfulness. The fear of the Lord gladdens the heart, giving happiness, joy and long life. For those who fear the Lord, all will end well. On their dying day they will be blessed. The basis of wisdom is to fear the Lord. She was created with the faithful in their mother's womb. She has made a home in the human race, an age, old foundation, and to their descendants will she faithfully cling. The fullness of wisdom is to fear the Lord. She intoxicates them with her fruits. She fills their entire house with treasures and their storerooms with her produce. The crown of wisdom is to fear the Lord. She makes peace and health flourish. The Lord has seen and assessed her. He has showered down knowledge and intelligence. He has exalted the renown of those who possess her. The root of wisdom is to fear the Lord, and her branches are long life. The rage of the wicked cannot put him in the right, for the weight of his rage is his downfall. A patient person puts up with things until the right time comes, but his joy will break out in the end. Till the time comes he keeps his thoughts to himself, and many a lip will affirm how wise he is. Wisdom's treasuries contain the maxims of knowledge. The sinner, however, holds piety in abhorrence. If you desire wisdom, keep the commandments, and the Lord will bestow it on you. For the fear of the Lord is wisdom and instruction, and what pleases him is faithfulness and gentleness. Do not stand out against fear of the Lord. Do not practice it with a double heart. Do not act apart in public. Keep watch over your lips. Do not grow too high and mighty, for fear you fall and cover yourself in disgrace. For the Lord would then reveal your secrets and overthrow you before the whole community for not having practiced fear of the Lord and for having a heart full of deceit. Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 2. My child, if you aspire to serve the Lord, prepare yourself for an ordeal. Be sincere of heart, be steadfast, and do not be alarmed when disaster comes. Cling to him and do not leave him, so that you may be honored at the end of your days. Whatever happens to you, accept it, and in the uncertainties of your humble state, be patient, since gold is tested in the fire, and the chosen in the furnace of humiliation. Trust him and he will uphold you. Follow a straight path and hope in him. You who fear the Lord, wait for his mercy. Do not turn aside, for fear you fall. You who fear the Lord, trust him, and you will not be robbed of your reward. You who fear the Lord, hope for those good gifts of his, everlasting joy and mercy. Look at the generations of old and see. Whoever trusted in the Lord and was put to shame, or whoever, steadfastly fearing him, was forsaken, or whoever called to him and was ignored. For the Lord is compassionate and merciful. He forgives sins and saves in the time of distress. Woe to faint hearts and listless hands, and to the sinner who treads two paths. Woe to the listless heart that has no faith, for such will have no protection. Woe to you who have lost the strength to endure. What will you do at the Lord's visitation? Those who fear the Lord do not disdain his words, and those who love him keep his ways. Those who fear the Lord do their best to please him, and those who love him will find satisfaction in the law. Those who fear the Lord keep their hearts prepared and humble themselves in his presence. Let us fall into the hands of the Lord, not into any human clutches. For as his majesty is, so too is his mercy. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 3. Children, listen to me, for I am your father. Do what I tell you, and so be safe. For the Lord honors the father above his children and upholds the rights of a mother over her sons. Whoever respects a father expiates sins. Whoever honors a mother is like someone amassing a fortune. Whoever respects a father will in turn be happy with children. The day he prays for help, he will be heard. Long life comes to anyone who honors a father. Whoever obeys the Lord makes a mother happy. Such a one serves parents as well as the Lord. Respect your father in deed as well as word, so that blessing may come on you from him. Since a father's blessing makes his children's house firm, while a mother's curse tears up its foundations. Do not make a boast of disgrace overtaking your father. Your father's disgrace reflects no honor on you. For a person's own honor derives from the respect shown to his father, and a mother held in dishonor is a reproach to her children. My child, support your father in his old age. Do not grieve him during his life. Even if his mind should fail, show him sympathy. Do not despise him in your health and strength. For kindness to a father will not be forgotten but will serve as reparation for your sins. On your own day of ordeal God will remember you. Like frost in sunshine, your sins will melt away. Whoever deserts a father is no better than a blasphemer, and whoever distresses a mother is accursed of the Lord. My child, be gentle in carrying out your business, and you will be better loved than a lavish giver. The greater you are, the more humbly you should behave, and then you will find favor with the Lord. For great though the power of the Lord is, he accepts the homage of the humble. Do not try to understand things that are too difficult for you, or try to discover what is beyond your powers. Concentrate on what has been assigned you. You have no need to worry over mysteries. Do not meddle with matters that are beyond you. What you have been taught already exceeds the scope of the human mind. For many have been misled by their own notions, wicked presumption having warped their judgment. A stubborn heart will come to a bad end, and whoever dallies with danger will perish in it. A stubborn heart is weighed down with troubles. The sinner heaps sin on sin. For the disease of the proud there is no cure, since an evil growth has taken root there. The heart of the sensible will reflect on parables. An attentive ear is the sage's dream. Water puts out a blazing fire. Almsgiving expiates sins. Whoever gives favors in return is mindful of the future. At the moment of falling, such a person will find support. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 4. My child, do not refuse the poor a livelihood. Do not tantalize the needy. Do not add to the sufferings of the hungry. Do not bait anyone in distress. Do not aggravate a heart already angry, nor keep the destitute waiting for your alms. Do not repulse a hard-pressed beggar, nor turn your face from the poor. Do not avert your eyes from the needy. Give no one occasion to curse you. For if someone curses you in distress, his Maker will give ear to the imprecation. Gain the love of the community. In the presence of the great bow your head. To the poor lend an ear, and courteously return the greeting. Save the oppressed from the hand of the oppressor, and do not be mean-spirited in your judgments. Be like a father to the fatherless, and as good as a husband to their mothers. And you will be like a child to the Most High, who will love you more than your own mother does. Wisdom brings up her own children, and cares for those who seek her. Whoever loves her loves life. Those who seek her early will be filled with joy. Whoever possesses her will inherit honor, and wherever he walks the Lord will bless him. Those who serve her minister to the Holy One, and the Lord loves those who love her. Whoever obeys her rules the nations. Whoever pays attention to her dwells secure. If he trusts himself to her, he will inherit her, and his descendants will remain in possession of her. For though she takes him at first through winding ways, bringing fear and faintness on him, trying him out with her discipline till she can trust him, and testing him with her ordeals, she then comes back to him on the straight road, makes him happy and reveals her secrets to him. If he goes astray, however, She abandons him and leaves him to his own destruction. Take circumstances into account and beware of evil, and have no cause to be ashamed of yourself. For there is a shame that leads to sin and a shame that is honorable and gracious. Do not be too severe on yourself. Do not let shame lead you to ruin. Do not refrain from speaking when it will do good, and do not hide your wisdom. For your wisdom is made known by what you say, your erudition by the words you utter. Do not contradict the truth. Rather blush for your own ignorance. Do not be ashamed to confess your sins. Do not struggle against the current of the river. Do not grovel to the foolish. Do not show partiality to the influential. Fight to the death for truth, and the Lord God will war on your side. Do not be bold of tongue, yet idle and slack in deed. Do not be like a lion at home, or cowardly towards your servants. Do not let your hands be outstretched to receive, yet tight-fisted when the time comes to give back. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 5. Do not put your confidence in your money or say, "With this I am self-sufficient." Do not be led by your appetites and energy to follow the passions of your heart. And do not say, "Who has authority over me?" For the Lord will certainly give you your deserts. Do not say, "I have sinned, but what harm has befallen me?" For the Lord's forbearance is long. Do not be so sure of forgiveness that you add sin to sin. And do not say, "His compassion is great, he will forgive me my many sins." For with him are both mercy and retribution, and his anger does not pass from sinners. Do not delay your return to the Lord. Do not put it off day after day. For suddenly the Lord's wrath will blaze out, and on the day of punishment you will be utterly destroyed. Do not set your heart on ill-gotten gains. They will be of no use to you on the day of disaster. Do not winnow in every wind, or walk along every byway, as the double-talking sinner does. Be steady in your convictions, and be a person of your word. Be quick to listen, and deliberate in giving an answer. If you understand the matter, give your neighbor an answer. If not, keep your hand over your mouth. Both honor and disgrace come from talking. The tongue is its owner's downfall. Do not get a name for scandal-mongering. Do not set traps with your tongue. For as shame lies in store for the thief, so harsh condemnation awaits the deceitful. Avoid offenses in great as in small matters, and do not exchange friendship for enmity. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 6. For a bad name will earn you shame and reproach, as happens to the double-talking sinner. Do not get carried aloft on the wings of passion, for fear your strength tear itself apart like a bull, and you devour your own foliage and destroy your own fruit and end by making yourself like a piece of dried-up wood. An evil temper destroys the person who has it and makes him the laughingstock of his enemies. A kindly turn of speech attracts new friends. A courteous tongue invites many a friendly response. Let your acquaintances be many, but for advisers choose one out of 1,000. If you want to make a friend, take him on trial, and do not be in a hurry to trust him. For one kind of friend is so only when it suits him but will not stand by you in your day of trouble. Another kind of friend will fall out with you and to your dismay make your quarrel public. And a third kind of friend will share your table, but not stand by you in your day of trouble. When you are doing well, he will be your second self, ordering your servants about. But if disaster befalls you, he will recoil from you and keep out of your way. Keep well clear of your enemies, and be wary of your friends. A loyal friend is a powerful defense. Whoever finds one has indeed found a treasure. A loyal friend is something beyond price. There is no measuring his worth. A loyal friend is the elixir of life, and those who fear the Lord will find one. Whoever fears the Lord makes true friends, for as a person is, so is his friend too. My child, from your earliest youth choose instruction. Until your hair is white you will keep finding wisdom. Like plowman and sower, cultivate her and wait for her fine harvest. For in tilling her you will toil a little while, but very soon you will be eating her crops. How very harsh she is to the undisciplined! The senseless does not stay with her for long. She will weigh as heavily on the senseless as a touchstone, and such a person will lose no time in throwing her off. For wisdom is true to her name. She is not accessible to many. Listen, my child, and take my advice. Do not reject my counsel. Put your feet into her fetters, and your neck into her collar. Offer your shoulder to her burden. Do not be impatient of her bonds. Court her with all your soul, and with all your might keep in her ways. Search for her, track her down. She will reveal herself. Once you hold her, do not let her go. For in the end you will find rest in her, and she will take the form of joy for you. Her fetters you will find a mighty defense, her collars a precious necklace. Her yoke will be a golden ornament, and her bonds be purple ribbons. You will wear her like a robe of honor. You will put her on like a crown of joy. If you wish it, my child, you can be taught. Apply yourself, and you will become intelligent. If you love listening, you will learn. If you pay attention, you will become wise. Attend the gathering of elders. If there is a wise man there, attach yourself to him. Listen willingly to any discourse coming from God. Do not let wise proverbs escape you. If you see a man of understanding, visit him early. Let your feet wear out his doorstep. Reflect on the injunctions of the Lord. Busy yourself at all times with his commandments. He will strengthen your mind, and the wisdom you desire will be granted you. Ecclesiasticus Chapter 7 Do no evil, and evil will not befall you. Shun wrong, and it will avoid you. My child, do not sow in the furrows of wickedness, for fear you have to reap them 7 times over. Do not ask the Lord for the highest place, or the king for a seat of honor. Do not parade your uprightness before the Lord, or your wisdom before the king. Do not scheme to be appointed judge, for fear you should not be strong enough to stamp out injustice, for fear of being swayed by someone influential and so of risking the loss of your integrity. Do not wrong the general body of citizens and so lower yourself in popular esteem. Do not be drawn to sin twice over, for you will not go unpunished even once. Do not say, God will be impressed by my numerous offerings. When I sacrifice to God Most High, He is bound to accept. Do not be hesitant in prayer. Do not neglect to give alms. Do not laugh at someone who is sad of heart, for he who brings low can lift up high. Do not make up lies against your brother, nor against a friend either. Mind you tell no lies, for no good can come of it. Do not talk too much at the gathering of elders, and do not repeat yourself at your prayers. Do not shirk tiring jobs or farm work, ordained by the Most High. Do not swell the ranks of sinners. Remember that the retribution will not delay. Be very humble, since the recompense for the godless is fire and worms. Do not barter a friend away for the sake of profit, nor a true brother for the gold of Ophir. Do not turn against a wise and good wife. Her gracious presence is worth more than gold. Do not ill-treat a slave who is an honest worker, or a wage earner who is devoted to you. Love an intelligent slave with all your heart, and do not deny such a slave his freedom. Have you cattle? Look after them. If they are making you a profit, keep them. Have you children? Educate them. From childhood make them bow the neck. Have you daughters? Take care of their bodies, but do not be overindulgent. Marry a daughter off, and you have finished a great work, but give her to a man of sense. Have you a wife to your liking? Do not turn her out, but if you do not love her, never trust her. With all your heart honor your father. Never forget the birth pangs of your mother. Remember that you owe your birth to them. How can you repay them for what they have done for you? With all your soul, fear the Lord and revere His priests. With all your might love Him who made you, and do not abandon His ministers. Fear the Lord and honor the priest and give him the portion enjoined on you. First fruits, sacrifice of reparation, shoulder gift, sanctification sacrifice, first fruits of the holy things. And also give generously to the poor, so that your blessing may lack nothing. Let your generosity extend to all the living. Do not withhold it even from the dead. Do not turn your back on those who weep, but share the grief of the grief-stricken. Do not shrink from visiting the sick. In this way you will make yourself loved. In everything you do, remember your end, and you will never sin. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 8. Do not try conclusions with anyone influential, in case you later fall into his clutches. Do not quarrel with anyone rich, in case he puts his weight against you. For gold has destroyed many, and has swayed the hearts of kings. Do not argue with anyone argumentative. Do not pile wood on that fire. Do not joke with anyone uncouth, for fear of hearing your ancestors insulted. Do not revile a repentant sinner. Remember that we all are guilty. Do not despise anyone in old age. After all, some of us too are growing old. Do not gloat over anyone's death. Remember that we all have to die. Do not scorn the discourse of the wise, but make yourself familiar with their maxims, since from these you will learn the theory and the art of serving the great. Do not dismiss what the old people have to say, for they too were taught by their parents. From them you will learn how to think, and the art of the timely answer. Do not kindle the coals of the sinner, in case you scorch yourself in his blaze. Refuse to be provoked by the insolent, for fear that such a one try to trap you in your words. Do not lend to anyone who is stronger than you are. If you do lend, resign yourself to loss. Do not stand surety beyond your means. If you do stand surety, be prepared to pay up. Do not go to law with a judge, since judgment will be given in his favor. Do not go traveling with a rash man, for fear he becomes burdensome to you. He will act as the whim takes him, and you will both be ruined by his folly. Do not argue with a quick-tempered man. Do not go with him where there are no other people, since blood counts for nothing in his eyes, and where no help is to be had, he will strike you down. Do not ask a fool for advice, since a fool will not be able to keep a confidence. In a stranger's presence do nothing that should be kept secret, since you cannot tell what use the stranger will make of it. Do not open your heart to all comers, nor lay claim to their good offices. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 9. Do not be jealous of the wife you love. Do not teach her lessons in how to harm you. Do not put yourself in a woman's hands, or she may come to dominate you completely. Do not keep company with a prostitute, in case you get entangled in her snares. Do not dally with a singing girl, in case you get caught by her wiles. Do not stare at a pretty girl, in case you and she incur the same punishment. Do not give your heart to whores, or you will ruin your inheritance. Keep your eyes to yourself in the streets of a town. Do not prowl about its unfrequented quarters. Turn your eyes away from a handsome woman. Do not stare at a beauty belonging to someone else. Because of a woman's beauty, many have been undone. This makes passion flare up like a fire. Never sit down with a married woman, or sit at table with her drinking wine, in case you let your heart succumb to her and you lose all self-control and slide to disaster. Do not desert an old friend. The new one will not be his match. New friend, new wine. When it grows old, you drink it with pleasure. Do not envy the sinner his success. You do not know how that will end. Do not take pleasure in what pleases the godless. Remember they will not go unpunished here below. Keep your distance from the man who has the power to put to death, and you will not be haunted by the fear of dying. If you do approach him, make no false move, or he may take your life. Realize that you are treading among triplines, that you are strolling on the battlements. Cultivate your neighbors to the best of your ability, and consult with the wise. For conversations seek the intelligent. Let all your discussions bear on the law of the Most High. Have the upright for your table companions, and let your pride be in fearing the Lord. Work from skilled hands will earn its praise. but a leader of the people must be skillful in words. A chatterbox is a terror to his town. A loose talker is detested. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10. A sagacious ruler educates his people, and he makes his subjects understand order. As the magistrate is, so will his officials be. As the governor is, so will be the inhabitants of his city. An undisciplined king will be the ruin of his people. A city owes its prosperity to the intelligence of its leading men. The government of the earth is in the hands of the Lord. He sets the right leader over it at the right time. Human success is in the hands of the Lord. He invests the scribe with honor. Do not resent your neighbor's every offense, and never act in a fit of passion. Pride is hateful to God and humanity, and injustice is abhorrent to both. Sovereignty passes from nation to nation because of injustice, arrogance, and money. What has dust and ashes to pride itself on? Even in life its entrails are repellent. A long illness makes a fool of the doctor. A king today is a corpse tomorrow. For in death the portion of all alike will be insects, wild animals, and worms. The first stage of pride is to desert the Lord and to turn one's heart away from one's Maker. Since the first stage of pride is sin, whoever clings to it will pour forth filth. This is why the Lord inflicts unexpected punishments on such people, utterly destroying them. The Lord has turned mighty princes off their thrones and seated the humble there instead. The Lord has plucked up the proud by the roots, and planted the lowly in their place. The Lord has overthrown the lands of the nations and destroyed them to the very foundations of the earth. Sometimes he has taken them away and destroyed them, and blotted out their memory from the earth. Pride was not created for human beings, nor furious rage for those born of woman. What race deserves honor? The human race. What race deserves honor? Those who fear the Lord. What race deserves contempt? The human race. What race deserves contempt? Those who break the law. A leader is honored by his brothers, and those who fear the Lord are honored by him. The rich, the noble, the poor, let them pride themselves on fearing the Lord. It is not right to despise one who is poor but intelligent, and it is not good to honor one who is a sinner. Magnate, magistrate, potentate, all are to be honored, but none is greater than the one who fears the Lord. A wise slave will have free men waiting on him, and the enlightened will not complain. Do not try to be smart when you do your work. Do not put on airs when you are in difficulties. Better the hard-working who has plenty of everything, than the pretentious at a loss for a meal. My child, be modest in your self-esteem, and value yourself at your proper worth. Who can justify one who inflicts injuries on himself, or respect one who is full of self-contempt? The poor is honored for wit, and the rich for wealth. Honored in poverty, how much the more in wealth? Dishonored in wealth, how much the more in poverty? Ecclesiasticus, chapter 11. Wisdom enables the poor to stand erect, and gives to the poor a place with the great. Do not praise anyone for good looks, nor dislike anyone for mere appearance. Small among winged creatures is the bee, but her produce is the sweetest of the sweet. Do not grow proud when people honor you, for the works of the Lord are wonderful but hidden from human beings. Many monarchs have been made to sit on the ground, and the person nobody thought of has worn the crown. Many influential people have been utterly disgraced, and prominent people have fallen into the power of others. Do not find fault before making thorough inquiry. First reflect, then give a reprimand. Listen before you answer, and do not interrupt a speech before it is finished. Do not wrangle about something that does not concern you. Do not interfere in the quarrels of sinners. My child, do not take on a great amount of business. If you multiply your interests, you are bound to suffer for it. Hurry as fast as you can, yet you will never arrive, nor will you escape by running away. Some people work very hard at top speed, only to find themselves falling further behind. Or there is the slow kind of person, needing help, poor in possessions and rich in poverty, and the Lord turns a favorable eye on him, lifts him out of his wretched condition, and enables him to hold his head high, thus causing general astonishment. Good and bad, life and death, poverty and wealth, all come from the Lord. To the devout the Lord's gift remains constant, and his favor will be there to lead them forever. Others grow rich by pinching and scraping, and here is the reward they receive for it. Although they say, "Now I can sit back and enjoy the benefit of what I have got," they do not know how long this will last. They will have to leave their goods to others and die. Stick to your job, work hard at it, and grow old at your work. Do not admire the achievements of sinners. Trust the Lord and mind your own business. Since it is a trifle in the eyes of the Lord, in a moment, suddenly to make the poor rich. The blessing of the Lord is the reward of the devout. In a moment God brings his blessing to flower. Do not say, "What are my needs? How much shall I have in the future?" And do not say, "I am self-sufficient. What disaster can affect me now?" In prosperous times, disasters are forgotten, and in times of disaster, no one remembers prosperity. Yet it is a trifle for the Lord on the day someone dies to repay him as his conduct deserves. A moment's adversity, and pleasures are forgotten. In a person's last hour his deeds will stand revealed. Call no one fortunate before his death. It is by his end that someone will be known. Do not bring everyone home with you, for many are the traps of the crafty. Like a captive partridge in a cage, so is the heart of the proud. Like a spy he watches for your downfall, ever on the lookout, turning good into bad and finding fault with what is praiseworthy. A hearthful of glowing coals starts from a single spark, and the sinner lurks for the chance to spill blood. Beware of a scoundrel and his evil contrivances, in case he puts a smear on you forever. Give a home to a stranger and he will start trouble and estrange you from your own family. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 12. If you mean to do a kindness, choose the right person, then your good deeds will not be wasted. Do good to someone devout, and you will be rewarded, if not by that person, then certainly by the Most High. No good will come to one who persists in evil, or who refuses to give alms. Give to the devout. Do not go to the help of a sinner. Do good to the humble. Give nothing to the godless. Refuse him bread. Do not give him any. It might make him stronger than you are. Then you would be repaid evil twice over for all the good you had done him. For the Most High himself detests sinners, and will repay the wicked with what they deserve. Give to the good, and do not go to the help of a sinner. In prosperity you cannot always tell a true friend, but in adversity you cannot mistake an enemy. When someone is doing well, that person's enemies are sad. When someone is doing badly, even a friend will keep at a distance. Do not ever trust an enemy. As bronze tarnishes, so does an enemy's malice. Even if he behaves humbly and comes bowing and scraping, maintain your reserve and be on your guard against him. Behave towards him as if you were polishing a mirror. You will find that his tarnish cannot last. Do not stand him beside you in case he thrusts you out and takes your place. Do not seat him on your right, or he will be after your position, and then you will remember what I have said and sadly admit that I was right. Who feels sorry for a snake charmer bitten by a snake, or for those who take risks with savage animals? Just so for one who consorts with a sinner, and becomes an accomplice in his sins. He will stay with you for a while, but if you once give way, he will press his advantage. An enemy may have sweetness on his lips, and in his heart a scheme to throw you into the ditch. An enemy may have tears in his eyes, but if he gets a chance, there can never be too much blood for him. If you meet with misfortune, you will find him there before you, and pretending to help you, he will trip you up. He will wag his head and clap his hands. He will whisper a lot and his expression will change. Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 13. Whoever touches pitch will be defiled, and anyone who associates with the proud will come to be like them. Do not try to carry a burden too heavy for you. Do not associate with someone more powerful and wealthy than yourself. Why put the clay pot next to the iron cauldron? It will only break when they bang against each other. The rich does wrong and takes a high line. The poor is wronged and has to beg for pardon. If you are useful, the rich will exploit you. If you go bankrupt, he will desert you. Are you well off? He will live with you. He will clean you out without a single qualm. Does he need you? He will hoodwink you, smile at you and raise your hopes. He will speak politely to you and say, "Is there anything you need?" He will make you feel small at his dinner parties and, having cleaned you out 2 or 3 times over, will end by laughing at you. Afterwards, when he sees you, he will avoid you and shake his head about you. Take care you are not hoodwinked and thus humiliated through your own stupidity. When an influential person invites you, show reluctance, and he will press his invitation all the more. Do not thrust yourself forward, in case you are pushed aside, but do not stand aloof, or you will be overlooked. Do not affect to treat him as an equal. Do not trust his flow of words. Since all this talking is expressly meant to test you, under cover of geniality he will be weighing you up. Pitiless is anyone who retails gossip. He will not spare you either blows or chains. Be wary, take very great care, because you are walking with your own downfall. Every living thing loves its own sort, and every man his fellow. Every creature mixes with its kind, and human beings stick to their own sort. How can wolf and lamb agree? Just so with sinner and devout. What peace can there be between hyena and dog? And what peace between rich and poor? Wild desert donkeys are the prey of lions. So too, the poor is the quarry of the rich. The proud thinks humility abhorrent. So too, the rich abominates the poor. When the rich stumbles, he is supported by friends. When the poor falls, his friends push him away. When the rich slips, there are many hands to catch him. If he talks nonsense, he is congratulated. The poor slips, and is blamed for it. He may talk good sense, but no room is made for him. The rich speaks and everyone stops talking, and then they praise his discourse to the skies. The poor speaks and people say, "Who is this?" And if he stumbles, they trip him up yet more. Wealth is good where there is no sin. Poverty is evil, the godless say. The heart molds a person's expression whether for better or worse. Happy heart, cheerful expression, but wearisome work, inventing proverbs. Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 14. Blessed is anyone who has not sinned in speech and who needs feel no remorse for sins. Blessed is anyone whose conscience brings no reproach and who has never given up hope. Wealth is not the right thing for the niggardly, and what use are possessions to the covetous? Whoever hoards by stinting himself is hoarding for others, and others will live sumptuously on his riches. If someone is mean to himself, whom does he benefit? He does not even enjoy what is his own. No one is meaner than the person who is mean to himself. This is how his wickedness repays him. If he does any good, he does it unintentionally, and in the end he himself reveals his wickedness. Wicked the person who has an envious eye, averting his face, and careless of others' lives. The eye of the grasping is not content with what he has. Greed shrivels up the soul. The miser is grudging of bread. There is famine at his table. My child, treat yourself as well as you can afford, and bring worthy offerings to the Lord. Remember that death will not delay, and that you have never seen Sheol's contract. Be kind to your friend before you die. Treat him as generously as you can afford. Do not refuse yourself the good things of today. Do not let your share of what is lawfully desired pass you by. Will you not have to leave your fortune to another, and the fruit of your labor to be divided by lot? Give and receive, enjoy yourself, There are no pleasures to be found in Sheol. Like clothes, every body will wear out. The age, old law is, everyone must die. Like foliage growing on a bushy tree, some leaves falling, others growing, so are the generations of flesh and blood. One dies, another is born. Every achievement rots away and perishes, and with it goes its author. Blessed is anyone who meditates on wisdom, and reasons with intelligence, who studies her ways in his heart, and ponders her secrets. He pursues her like a hunter, and lies in wait by her path. He peeps in at her windows and listens at her doors. He lodges close to her house, and fixes his peg in her walls. He pitches his tent at her side, and lodges in an excellent lodging. He sets his children in her shade, and camps beneath her branches. He is sheltered by her from the heat, and in her glory he makes his home. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 15. Whoever fears the Lord will act like this, and whoever grasps the law will obtain wisdom. She will come to meet him like a mother, and receive him like a virgin bride. She will give him the bread of understanding to eat, and the water of wisdom to drink. He will lean on her and will not fall. He will rely on her and not be put to shame. She will raise him high above his neighbors, and in full assembly she will open his mouth. He will find happiness and a crown of joy. He will inherit an everlasting name. Fools will not gain possession of her, nor will sinners set eyes on her. She stands remote from pride, and liars cannot call her to mind. Praise is unseemly in a sinner's mouth, since it has not been put there by the Lord. For praise should be uttered only in wisdom, and the Lord himself then prompts it. Do not say, "The Lord was responsible for my sinning," for he does not do what he hates. Do not say, "It was he who led me astray," for he has no use for a sinner. The Lord hates all that is foul, and no one who fears him will love it either. He himself made human beings in the beginning, and then left them free to make their own decisions. If you choose, you will keep the commandments and so be faithful to his will. He has set fire and water before you. Put out your hand to whichever you prefer. A human being has life and death before him. Whichever he prefers will be given him. For vast is the wisdom of the Lord. He is almighty and all-seeing. His eyes are on those who fear him. He notes every human action. He never commanded anyone to be godless. He has given no one permission to sin. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 16. Do not long for a brood of worthless children, and do not take pleasure in godless sons. However many you have, take no pleasure in them, unless the fear of the Lord lives among them. Do not count on their having long life. Do not put too much faith in their number. For better have one than 1,000, better die childless than have children who are godless. One person of sense can populate a city, but a race of lawless people will be destroyed. My eyes have seen many such things. My ears have heard things even more impressive. Fire is kindled in a sinful society. Retribution blazes in a rebellious nation. God did not pardon the giants of old who, confident in their strength, had rebelled. He did not spare the people with whom Lot lived. He abhorred them, rather, for their pride. He was pitiless to the nation of perdition, those people who gloried in their sins, as also to the 600,000 men on the march, who had banded together in their obstinacy. And had there been only one man stubborn, it would have been amazing had he escaped unpunished, since mercy and wrath alike belong to the Lord, who is mighty to forgive and to pour out wrath. As great as his mercy, so is his severity. He judges each person as his deeds deserve. The sinner will not escape with his ill-gotten gains, nor the patience of the devout go for nothing. He takes note of every charitable action, and everyone is treated as he deserves. Do not say, "I shall hide from the Lord." Who is going to remember me up there? I shall not be noticed among so many people. What am I in the immensity of creation? For see, the sky and the heavens above the sky, The abyss and the earth shake at his visitation. The mountains and earth's foundations alike quail and tremble when he looks at them. But to all this no one gives thought. Who keeps his movements in mind? The storm wind itself is invisible, and most of what he does goes undetected. Who will report whether justice has been done? Who will be watching? The covenant is remote. Such are the thoughts of the person of little sense, stupid, misguided, cherishing his folly. Listen to me, my child, and learn knowledge, and give your whole mind to my words. I shall expound discipline methodically and proclaim knowledge with precision. When God created his works in the beginning, he assigned them their places as soon as they were made. He determined his works for all time, from their origins to their distant generations. They know neither hunger nor weariness, and they never desert their duties. Not one has ever got in the way of another, and they will never disobey his word. And afterwards the Lord looked at the earth, and filled it with his good things. He covered its surface with every kind of animal, and to it they will return. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 17. The Lord fashioned human beings from the earth, to consign them back to it. He gave them so many days and so much time. He gave them authority over everything on earth. He clothed them in strength, like himself, and made them in his own image. He filled all living things with dread of human beings, making them masters over beasts and birds. He made them a tongue, eyes, and ears, and gave them a heart to think with. He filled them with knowledge and intelligence, and showed them what was good and what evil. He put his own light in their hearts to show them the magnificence of his works, so that they would praise his holy name as they told of his magnificent works. He set knowledge before them. He endowed them with the law of life. He established an eternal covenant with them, and revealed his judgments to them. Their eyes saw the majesty of his glory, and their ears heard the glory of his voice. He said to them, "Beware of all wrongdoing." He gave each a commandment concerning his neighbor. Their ways are always under his eye. They cannot be hidden from his sight. Over each nation he has set a governor, but Israel is the Lord's own portion. Their actions are all as plain as the sun to him, and his eyes rest constantly on their conduct. Their iniquities are not hidden from him. All their sins are before the Lord. Almsgiving is like a signet ring to him. He cherishes generosity like the pupil of an eye. One day he will rise and reward them. He will repay their deserts on their own heads. But to those who repent he permits return, and he encourages those who have lost hope. Return to the Lord and renounce your sins. Plead before his face. Stop offending him. Come back to the Most High. Turn away from iniquity and hold all that is foul in abhorrence. Who is going to praise the Most High in Sheol if we do not glorify him while we are alive? The dead can praise no more than those who do not exist. Only those with life and health can praise the Lord. How great is the mercy of the Lord, his pardon for those who turn to him. For we cannot have everything. Human beings are not immortal. What is brighter than the sun? And yet it fades. Flesh and blood think of nothing but evil. He surveys the armies of the lofty sky, and all of us are only dust and ashes. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 18. He who lives forever has created the sum of things. The Lord alone will be found just. He has given no one the power to proclaim his works to the end. And who can fathom his magnificent deeds? Who can assess his magnificent strength? And who can go further and tell all of his mercies? Nothing can be added to them, nothing subtracted. It is impossible to fathom the marvels of the Lord. When someone finishes, he is only beginning, and when he stops, he is as puzzled as ever. What is a human being? What purpose does he serve? What is good and what is bad for him? The length of his life, 100 years at most. Like a drop of water from the sea, or a grain of sand, Such are these few years compared with eternity. This is why the Lord is patient with them and pours out his mercy on them. He sees and recognizes how wretched their end is, and so he makes his forgiveness the greater. Human compassion extends to neighbors, but the Lord's compassion extends to everyone, rebuking, correcting, and teaching, bringing them back as a shepherd brings his flock. He has compassion on those who accept correction, and who fervently search for his judgments. My child, do not temper your favors with blame, nor any of your gifts with words that hurt. Does not dew relieve the heat? In the same way a word is worth more than a gift. Why surely, a word is better than a good present, but a generous person is ready with both. A fool will offer nothing but insult, and a grudging gift makes the eyes smart. Learn before you speak. Take care of yourself before you fall ill. Examine yourself before judgment comes, and on the day of visitation you will be acquitted. Humble yourself before you fall ill. Repent as soon as the sin is committed. Let nothing prevent your discharging a vow in good time, and do not wait till death to set matters right. Prepare yourself before making a vow, and do not be like someone who tempts the Lord. Bear in mind the retribution of the last days, the time of vengeance when God averts his face. In a time of plenty remember times of famine. Think of poverty and want when you are rich. The time slips by between dawn and dusk. Everything passes quickly for the Lord. The wise will be cautious in everything. In sinful times will take care not to offend. Every person of sense recognizes wisdom, and will respect anyone who has found her. Those who understand sayings have toiled for their wisdom and have poured out accurate maxims. Do not be governed by your passions. Restrain your desires. If you allow yourself to satisfy your desires, this will make you the laughingstock of your enemies. Do not indulge in luxurious living. Do not get involved in such society. Do not beggar yourself by banqueting on credit when there is nothing in your pocket. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 19. A drunken workman will never grow rich, and one who makes light of small matters will gradually sink. Wine and women corrupt intelligent men. The customer of whores loses all sense of shame. Grubs and worms will have him as their legacy, and the man who knows no shame will lose his life. Being too ready to trust shows shallowness of mind, and sinning harms the sinner. Taking pleasure in evil earns condemnation. By hating gossip one avoids evil. Never repeat what you are told and you will come to no harm. Whether to friend or foe, do not talk about it. Unless it would be sinful not to, do not reveal it. You would be heard out, then mistrusted, and in due course you would be hated. Have you heard something? Let it die with you. Courage! It will not burst you. A fool will suffer birth pangs over a piece of news, like a woman laboring with child. Like an arrow stuck in the flesh of the thigh, so is a piece of news inside a fool. Question your friend, he may have done nothing at all, and if he has done anything, he will not do it again. Question your neighbor, he may have said nothing at all, and if he has said anything, he will not say it again. Question your friend, for slander is very common. Do not believe all you hear. People sometimes make a slip, without meaning what they say, and which of us has never sinned by speech? Question your neighbor before you threaten him, and defer to the law of the Most High. Wisdom consists entirely in fearing the Lord, and wisdom is entirely constituted by the fulfilling of the law. Being learned in evil, however, is not wisdom. There is no prudence in the advice of sinners. There is a cleverness that is detestable. Whoever has no wisdom is a fool. Better be short of sense and full of fear, than abound in shrewdness and violate the law. There is a wickedness which is scrupulous but nonetheless dishonest, and there are those who misuse kindness to win their case. There is the person who will walk bowed down with grief, when inwardly this is nothing but deceit. He hides his face and pretends to be deaf. If he is not unmasked, he will take advantage of you. There is the person who is prevented from sinning by lack of strength, yet he will do wrong when he gets the chance. You can tell a person by his appearance, you can tell a thinker by the look on his face. The way a person dresses, the way he laughs, the way he walks, tell you what he is. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 20. There is the rebuke that is untimely, and there is the person who keeps quiet, and he is the shrewd one. But how much better to rebuke than to fume? The person who acknowledges a fault wards off punishment. Like a eunuch trying to take a girl's virginity is someone who tries to impose justice by force. There is the person who keeps quiet and is considered wise. Another incurs hatred for talking too much. There is the person who keeps quiet, not knowing how to answer. Another keeps quiet, knowing when to speak. The wise will keep quiet till the right moment, but a garrulous fool will always misjudge it. Someone who talks too much will earn dislike, and someone who usurps authority will earn hatred. There is the person who finds misfortune a boon, and the piece of luck that turns to loss. There is the gift that affords you no profit, and the gift that repays you double. There is the honor that leads to humiliation, and there are people in a low state who raise their heads. There is the person who buys much for little, yet pays for it 7 times over. The wise wins love with words, while fools may shower favors in vain. The gift of the stupid will bring you no advantage. His eyes look for 7 times as much in return. He gives little and reviles much. He opens his mouth like the town crier. He lends today and demands payment tomorrow. He is a detestable fellow. The fool will say, I have no friends. I get no gratitude for my good deeds. Those who eat my bread have malicious tongues. How often he will be laughed at, and by how many? Better a slip on the pavement than a slip of the tongue. This is how ruin takes the wicked by surprise. A coarse-grained person is like an indiscreet story endlessly retold by the ignorant. A maxim is rejected when coming from a fool, since the fool does not utter it on the apt occasion. There is a person who is prevented from sinning by poverty. No qualms of conscience disturb that person's rest. There is a person who courts destruction out of false shame, courts destruction for the sake of a fool's opinion. There is a person who out of false shame makes promises to a friend, and so makes an enemy for nothing. Lying is an ugly blot on anyone, and ever on the lips of the undisciplined. A thief is preferable to an inveterate liar, but both are heading for ruin. Lying is an abominable habit. The liar's disgrace lasts forever. The wise gains advancement by words. The shrewd wins favor from the great. Whoever tills the soil will have a full harvest. Whoever wins favor from the great will secure pardon for offenses. Presents and gifts blind the eyes of the wise and stifle rebukes like a muzzle on the mouth. Wisdom concealed, and treasure undiscovered. What use is either of these? Better one who conceals his folly than one who conceals his wisdom. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 21. My child, have you sinned? Do so no more, and ask forgiveness for your previous faults. Flee from sin as from a snake. If you approach it, it will bite you. Its teeth are lion's teeth, they take human life away. All lawbreaking is like a two-edged sword. The wounds it inflicts are beyond cure. Terror and violence make havoc of riches. Similarly, desolation overtakes the houses of the proud. A plea from the mouth of the poor goes straight to the ear of God, whose judgment comes without delay. Whoever resents reproof walks in the sinner's footsteps. Whoever fears the Lord is repentant of heart. The glib speaker is known far and wide, but the wary detects every slip. To build your house with other people's money is like collecting stones for your own tomb. A meeting of the lawless is like a heap of tow. They will end in a blazing fire. The sinner's road is smoothly paved, but it ends at the pit of Sheol. Whoever keeps the law will master his instincts. The fear of the Lord is made perfect in wisdom. No one who lacks aptitude can be taught, but certain aptitudes give rise to bitterness. The sage's knowledge is as rich as the abyss, and his advice is like a living spring. The heart of a fool is like a broken jar. It will not hold any knowledge. If the educated hears a wise saying, he praises it and caps it with another. If a debauchee hears it, he does not like it and tosses it behind his back. The talk of a fool is like a load on a journey, but it is a pleasure to listen to the intelligent. The utterance of the shrewd will be eagerly awaited in the assembly. What he says will be given serious consideration. The wisdom of a fool is like the wreckage of a house. The knowledge of a dolt is incoherent talk. To the senseless fellow instruction is like fetters on the feet, like manacles on the right hand. A fool laughs at the top of his voice, but the intelligent quietly smiles. To the shrewd instruction is like a golden ornament, like a bracelet on the right arm. The step of a fool goes straight into a house, but a person of much experience makes a respectful approach. The stupid peeps inside through the door. A well-bred person waits outside. Listening at doors is a sign of bad upbringing. The perceptive would be ashamed to do so. The lips of gossips repeat the words of others. The words of the wise are carefully weighed. The heart of fools is in their mouth, but the mouth of the wise is in their heart. When the godless curses Satan, he is cursing himself. The scandalmonger sullies himself and earns the hatred of the neighborhood. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 22. An idler is like a stone covered in filth. Everyone whistles at his disgrace. An idler is like a lump of dung. Anyone picking it up shakes it off his hand. It is a disgrace to have fathered a badly brought-up son, but the birth of any daughter is a loss. A sensible daughter will find a husband, but a shameless one is a grief to her father. A brazen daughter puts father and mother to shame, and will be disowned by both. An untimely remonstrance is like music at a funeral, but a thrashing and correction are wisdom at all times. Teaching a fool is like gluing bits of pottery together. You are rousing someone who is besotted with sleep. You might as well talk to someone sound asleep. When you have finished, the fool will say, "What's up?" Shed tears for the dead, who has left the light behind. Shed tears for the fool, who has left his wits behind. Shed quieter tears for the dead who is at rest. For the fool life is worse than death. Mourning for the dead lasts 7 days. For the foolish and ungodly all the days of their lives. Do not waste many words on the stupid. Do not go near a dolt. Beware of him, or you will have trouble and be soiled by contact with him. Keep away from him, and you will have peace of mind and not be exasperated by his folly. What is heavier than lead? And what is its name if not fool? Sand and salt and a lump of iron are a lighter burden than a dolt. A tie beam bonded into a building will not be dislodged by an earthquake. So too, a heart resolved after due reflection will not flinch at the critical moment. A heart founded on intelligent reflection is like a stucco decoration on a smooth wall. Pebbles placed on top of a wall will not stand up to the wind. No more can the heart of a fool frightened at his own thoughts stand up to fear. Prick an eye and you will draw a tear. Prick a heart and you reveal its feelings. Throw stones at birds and you scare them away. Reproach a friend and you destroy a friendship. If you have drawn your sword on a friend, do not despair. There is a way back. If you have opened your mouth against your friend, do not worry. There is hope for reconciliation, but insult, arrogance, betrayal of secrets, and the stab in the back, in these cases any friend is lost. Win your neighbor's confidence when he is poor, so that you may enjoy his later good fortune with him. Stand by him in times of trouble, in order to have your share when he comes into a legacy. Fire is heralded by the reek of the furnace and smoke. So too, bloodshed by insults. I shall not be ashamed to shelter a friend, nor shall I hide away from him. And if evil comes to me through him, everyone who hears about it will beware of him. Who will set a guard on my mouth, and an efficient seal on my lips, to keep me from falling, and my tongue from causing my ruin? Ecclesiasticus, Chapter 23. Lord, Father and Master of my life, do not abandon me to their whims. Do not let me fall because of them. Who will lay whips to my thoughts, and the discipline of wisdom to my heart, to be merciless to my errors and not let my sins go unchecked? For fear my errors should multiply and my sins then abound, and I fall before my adversaries, and my enemy gloat over me. Lord, Father and God of my life, do not let my eyes be proud. Turn envy away from me. Do not let lechery and lust grip me. Do not leave me a prey to shameless desire. Children, listen to what I teach. No one who keeps it will be caught out. The sinner is ensnared by his own lips. Both the abusive and the proud are tripped by them. Do not get into the habit of swearing. Do not make a habit of naming the Holy One. For just as a slave who is constantly overseen will never be without bruises, so someone who is always swearing and uttering the name will not be exempt from sin. A man forever swearing is full of iniquity, and the scourge will not depart from his house. If he offends, his sin will be on him. If he did it unheedingly, he has doubly sinned. If he swears a false oath, he will not be treated as innocent, for his house will be filled with calamities. One way of talking is like death. Let it not be found in the heritage of Jacob, since devout people have nothing to do with that. They will not wallow in sin. Do not get into the habit of using coarse and foul language, since this involves sinful words. Remember your father and mother when you are sitting with the great, for fear you forget yourself in their presence and behave like a fool, and then wish you had not been born and curse the day of your birth. No one in the habit of using shameful language will break himself of it as long as he lives. There are two types of people who commit sin after sin, and a third who attracts retribution, desire, blazing like a furnace, will not die down until it has been sated. The man who lusts after members of his own family is not going to stop until he is quite burnt out. Every food is sweet to the promiscuous, and he will not desist until he dies. And the man who sins against the marriage bed and says to himself, "Who can see me? There is darkness all round me, the walls hide me, no one can see me, why should I worry? The Most High will not remember my sins." What he fears are human eyes. He does not realize that the eyes of the Lord are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, observing every aspect of human behavior, seeing into the most secret corners. All things were known to him before they were created, and are still, now that they are finished. This man will be punished in view of the whole town, and will be seized when he least expects it. Similarly, the woman unfaithful to her husband, who provides him with an heir by another man. First, she has disobeyed the law of the Most High. Secondly, she has been false to her husband. And thirdly, she has gone whoring in adultery and conceived children by another man. She will be led before the assembly. An inquiry will be held about her children. Her children will strike no root. Her branches will bear no fruit. She will leave an accursed memory behind her. Her shame will never be wiped out. And those who survive her will recognize that nothing is better than fearing the Lord, and nothing sweeter than adherence to the Lord's commandments. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 24. Wisdom speaks her own praises. In the midst of her people she glories in herself. She opens her mouth in the assembly of the Most High. She glories in herself in the presence of the Mighty One. I came forth from the mouth of the Most High, and I covered the earth like mist. I had my tent in the heights, and my throne was a pillar of cloud. Alone, I have made the circuit of the heavens and walked through the depths of the abyss, over the waves of the sea and over the whole earth, and over every people and nation I have held sway. Among all these I searched for rest, and looked to see in whose territory I might pitch camp. Then the Creator of all things instructed me, and He who created me fixed a place for my tent. He said, "Pitch your tent in Jacob, make Israel your inheritance." From eternity, in the beginning, He created me, and for eternity I shall remain. In the holy tent I ministered before Him, and thus became established in Zion. In the beloved city He has given me rest, and in Jerusalem I wield my authority. I have taken root in a privileged people, in the Lord's property, in his inheritance. I have grown tall as a cedar on Lebanon, as a cypress on Mount Hermon. I have grown tall as a palm in En-Gedi, as the rose bushes of Jericho, as a fine olive in the plain, as a plane tree, I have grown tall. Like cinnamon and acanthus, I have yielded a perfume like choice myrrh, have breathed out a scent like galbanum, onycha, labdanum, like the smoke of incense in the tent. I have spread my branches like a terebinth, and my branches are glorious and graceful. I am like a vine putting out graceful shoots. My blossoms bear the fruit of glory and wealth. Approach me, you who desire me, and take your fill of my fruits. For memories of me are sweeter than honey. Inheriting me is sweeter than the honeycomb. They who eat me will hunger for more. They who drink me will thirst for more. No one who obeys me will ever have to blush. No one who acts as I dictate will ever sin. All this is no other than the book of the covenant of the Most High God, the law that Moses enjoined on us, an inheritance for the communities of Jacob. This is what makes wisdom brim over like the Pishon, like the Tigris in the season of fruit, what makes intelligence overflow like the Euphrates, like the Jordan at harvest time, and makes discipline flow like the Nile, like the Gin when the grapes are harvested. The first man did not finish discovering about her, nor has the most recent tracked her down. For her thoughts are wider than the sea, and her designs more profound than the abyss. And I, like a conduit from a river, like a watercourse running into a garden, I said, I am going to water my orchard. I intend to irrigate my flower beds. And see, my conduit has grown into a river, and my river has grown into a sea. Making discipline shine forth from daybreak, I shall send its light far and wide. I shall pour out teaching like prophecy, as a legacy to all future generations. And note, I have been working not merely for myself, but for all who are seeking wisdom. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 25. There are 3 things my soul delights in, and which are delightful to God and to all people: concord between brothers, friendship between neighbors, and a wife and husband who live happily together. There are 3 sorts of people my soul hates, and whose existence I consider an outrage: the poor swollen with pride, the rich who is a liar, and an adulterous old man who has no sense. If you have gathered nothing in your youth, how can you discover anything in your old age? How fine a thing, sound judgment with gray hairs, and for graybeards to know how to advise. How fine a thing, wisdom in the aged, and considered advice coming from people of distinction. The crown of the aged is ripe experience, their glory, the fear of the Lord. There are 9 things I can think of which strike me as happy, and a 10th which is now on my tongue: the man who can be proud of his children, he who lives to see the downfall of his enemies. Happy is he who keeps house with a sensible wife, he who does not toil with ox and donkey, he who has never sinned with his tongue, he who does not serve a man less worthy than himself. Happy is he who has acquired good sense and can find attentive ears for what he has to say. How great is he who has acquired wisdom, but unsurpassed is one who fears the Lord. The fear of the Lord surpasses everything. What can compare with someone who has mastered that? Any wound rather than a wound of the heart, any spite rather than the spite of woman, any evil rather than an evil caused by an enemy, any vengeance rather than the vengeance of a foe. There is no poison worse than the poison of a snake. There is no fury worse than the fury of an enemy. I would sooner keep house with a lion or a dragon than keep house with a spiteful wife. A woman's spite changes her appearance and makes her face as grim as a bear's. When her husband goes out to dinner with his neighbors, he cannot help heaving bitter sighs. No spite can approach the spite of a woman. May a sinner's lot be hers. Like the climbing of a sandhill for elderly feet, such is a garrulous wife for a quiet husband. Do not be taken in by a woman's beauty. Never lose your head over a woman. Bad temper, insolence and shame hold sway where the wife supports the husband. Low spirits, gloomy face, stricken heart. Such is a spiteful wife. slack hands and sagging knees. Such is the wife who does not make her husband happy. Sin began with a woman, and thanks to her we must all die. Do not let water find a leak, nor a spiteful woman give free rein to her tongue. If she will not do as you tell her, get rid of her. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 26. How blessed is the husband of a really good wife! The number of his days will be doubled. A perfect wife is the joy of her husband. He will live out the years of his life in peace. A good wife is the best of portions, reserved for those who fear the Lord. Rich or poor, their hearts will be glad, their faces cheerful, whatever the season. There are 3 things that I dread, and a 4th which terrifies me: slander by a whole town, the gathering of a mob, and a false accusation. These are all worse than death. But a woman jealous of a woman means heartbreak and sorrow, and all this is the scourge of the tongue. A bad wife is a badly fitting ox yoke. Trying to master her is like grasping a scorpion. A drunken wife will goad anyone to fury. She cannot conceal her own degradation. A woman's wantonness shows in her wide-eyed look. Her eyelashes leave no doubt. Keep a headstrong daughter under firm control, or, feeling free, she will take advantage of it. Keep a strict watch on her shameless eye. Do not be surprised if she disgraces you. Like a thirsty traveler, she will open her mouth and drink any water she comes across. She will sit down in front of every tent peg and open her quiver to any arrow. The grace of a wife will charm her husband. Her understanding will make him the stronger. A silent wife is a gift from the Lord. No price can be put on a well-trained character. A modest wife is a boon twice over. A chaste character cannot be overvalued. Like the sun rising over the mountains of the Lord, such is the beauty of a good wife in a well-run house. Like a lamp shining on the sacred lampstand, such is a beautiful face on a well-proportioned body. Like golden pillars on a silver base, such are shapely legs on firm-set heels. There are 2 things which grieve my heart, and a 3rd arouses my anger: a warrior wasting away through poverty, the intelligent treated with contempt, someone turning back from virtue to sin. The Lord marks out such a person for a violent death. It is difficult for a merchant to avoid doing wrong, and for a trader not to incur sin. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 27. Many have sinned for the sake of profit. One who hopes to be rich must turn a blind eye. A peg will stick in the joint between 2 stones, and sin will wedge itself between selling and buying. Whoever does not firmly hold to the fear of the Lord, his house will soon be overthrown. In a shaken sieve the rubbish is left behind. So too the defects of a person appear in speech. The kiln tests the work of the potter. The test of a person is in conversation. The orchard where the tree grows is judged by its fruit. Similarly, words betray what a person feels. Do not praise anyone who has not yet spoken, since this is where people are tested. If you pursue virtue, you will attain it and put it on like a festal gown. Birds consort with their kind. Truth comes home to those who practice it. The lion lies in wait for its prey. So does sin for those who do wrong. The conversation of the devout is wisdom at all times, but the fool is as changeable as the moon. When visiting stupid people, choose the right moment, but among the thoughtful take your time. The conversation of fools is disgusting. Raucous their laughter in their sinful pleasures. The talk of hard-swearing people makes your hair stand on end. Their brawling makes you stop your ears. A quarrel between the proud leads to bloodshed, and their insults are embarrassing to hear. A betrayer of secrets forfeits all trust and will never find the kind of friend he wants. Be fond of a friend and keep faith with him, but if you have betrayed his secrets, do not go after him anymore. For as one destroys a person by killing him, so you have killed your neighbor's friendship, and as you let a bird slip through your fingers, so you have let your friend go, and will not catch him. Do not go after him, he is far away. He has fled like a gazelle from the snare. For a wound can be bandaged and abuse forgiven, but for the betrayer of a secret there is no hope. Someone with a sly wink is plotting mischief. No one can dissuade him from it. Honey-tongue to your face, he is lost in admiration at your words. But behind your back he has other things to say, and turns your words into a stumbling block. I have found many things to hate, but nothing as much as him, and the Lord hates him too. Whoever throws a stone in the air, throws it onto his own head. A treacherous blow cuts both ways. The man who digs a pit falls into it. Whoever sets a snare will be caught by it. On anyone who does evil, evil will recoil, without his knowing where it comes from. Sarcasm and abuse are the mark of the arrogant, but vengeance lies in wait like a lion for such a one. The trap will close on all who rejoice in the downfall of the devout, and pain will eat them up before they die. Resentment and anger, these are foul things too, and a sinner is a master at them both. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 28. Whoever exacts vengeance will experience the vengeance of the Lord, who keeps strict account of sin. Pardon your neighbor any wrongs done to you, and when you pray, your sins will be forgiven. If anyone nurses anger against another, can one then demand compassion from the Lord? Showing no pity for someone like oneself, can one then plead for one's own sins? Mere creature of flesh, yet cherishing resentment. Who will forgive one for sinning? Remember the last things, and stop hating corruption and death, and be faithful to the commandments. Remember the commandments, and do not bear your fellow ill will. Remember the covenant of the Most High, and ignore the offense. Avoid quarreling and you will sin less, for the hot-tempered provokes quarrels. A sinner sows trouble between friends, introducing discord among the peaceful. The way a fire burns depends on its fuel. A quarrel spreads in proportion to its violence. A man's rage depends on his strength. His fury grows fiercer in proportion to his wealth. A sudden quarrel kindles fire. A hasty dispute leads to bloodshed. Blow on a spark and up it flares. Spit on it and out it goes. Both are the effects of your mouth. A curse on the scandalmonger and double-talker. Such a person has ruined many who lived in concord. That third tongue has shattered the peace of many and driven them from nation to nation. It has pulled down fortified cities, and overthrown the houses of the great. The third tongue has had upright wives divorced, depriving them of reward for their hard work. No one who listens to it will ever know peace of mind, will ever live in peace again. A stroke of the whip raises a wheel, but a stroke of the tongue breaks bones. Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but many more have fallen by the tongue. Blessed is anyone who has been sheltered from it, and has not experienced its fury, who has not dragged its yoke about, or been bound in its chains. For its yoke is an iron yoke, its chains are bronze chains. The death it inflicts is a miserable death. Sheol is preferable to it. It cannot gain a hold over the devout. They are not burnt by its flames. Those who desert the Lord will fall into it. It will flare up inextinguishably among them. It will be let loose against them like a lion. It will tear them like a leopard. Be sure you put a thorn hedge round your property, lock away your silver and gold. Then make scales and weights for your words, and put a door with bolts across your mouth. Take care you take no false step through it, in case you fall a prey to him who lies in wait. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 29. Making your neighbor alone is an act of mercy. To lend him a helping hand is to keep the commandments. Lend to your neighbor in his time of need, and in your turn repay your neighbor on time. Be as good as your word and keep faith with him, and you will find your needs met every time. Many treat a loan as a windfall, and embarrass those who have come to their rescue. Until he gets something, a man will kiss his neighbor's hand, and refer diffidently to his wealth. But when the loan falls due, he puts this off. He repays with offhand words, and pleads the inconvenience of the time. Even if he can be made to pay, his creditor will recover barely half, and consider even that a windfall. But otherwise he will be cheated of his money, and undeservedly gain himself an enemy. The man will pay him back in curses and abuse, and with insults of honor. Many, not out of malice, refuse to lend. They are merely anxious not to be cheated for nothing. Nevertheless, be patient with those who are badly off. Do not keep them waiting on your generosity. In obedience to the commandment, help the poor. Do not turn the poor away empty-handed in their need. Spend your money on your brother or your friend. Do not leave it under a stone to rust away. Use your wealth as the Most High has decreed. You will find that more profitable than gold. Stock your storerooms with almsgiving. This will save you from all misfortune. Better than sturdy shield or weighty spear, this will fight for you against the enemy. A good man will go surety for his neighbor. Only a shameless wretch would desert him. Do not forget the favor your guarantor has done you. He has given his life for you. A sinner is careless of his guarantor's prosperity. The ungrateful forgets his deliverer. Going surety has ruined many who were prosperous, tossing them about in a heavy sea. It has driven the powerful from home to wander among foreign nations. A wicked man in a hurry to stand guarantor in the hope of profit is hurrying to be sentenced. Come to your neighbor's help as far as you can, but take care not to fall into the same plight. The first thing in life is water, and bread, and clothing, and a house for the sake of privacy. Better the life of the poor under a roof of planks than lavish fare in somebody else's house. Whether you have little or much, be content with it, and you will not hear your household complaining. It is a miserable life, going from house to house. Wherever you stay, you dare not open your mouth, you do not belong. You receive no thanks for the drink you pour out and hear embittering words into the bargain. Come along, stranger, lay the table. What have you got ready? Give me something to eat. Go away, stranger, make room for someone important. My brother is coming to stay, I need the house. It is hard for the reasonable to be begrudged hospitality, to be shamed like a debtor. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30. Whoever loves his son will beat him frequently, so that in after years the son may be his comfort. Whoever is strict with his son will reap the benefit, and be able to boast of him to his acquaintances. Whoever educates his son will be the envy of his enemy, and will be proud of him among his friends. Even when the father dies, he might well not be dead, since he leaves his likeness behind him. In life he has had the joy of his company, dying, he has no anxieties. He leaves an avenger against his enemies and a rewarder of favors for his friends. Whoever coddles his son will bandage his wounds. His heart will turn over at every cry. A badly broken-in horse turns out stubborn. A son left to himself turns out headstrong. Pamper your child and he will terrorize you. Play along with him and he will bring you sorrow. Do not laugh with him, or one day you will weep with him and end up gnashing your teeth. While he is young, do not allow him his freedom and do not wink at his mistakes. Bend his neck in youth, bruise his ribs while he is a child, or else he will grow stubborn and disobedient, and hurt you very deeply. Be strict with your son, and persevere with him, or you will rue his insolence. Better be poor if healthy and fit than rich if tormented in body. Health and strength are better than any gold, a robust body than untold wealth. No riches can outweigh bodily health. No enjoyment surpass a cheerful heart. Better death than a wretched life, and everlasting rest than chronic illness. Good things lavished on a closed mouth are like food offerings put on a grave. What use is an offering to an idol which can neither eat nor smell? How describe someone pursued by the Lord's displeasure? He looks and sighs like a eunuch embracing a pretty girl. How he sighs! Do not abandon yourself to sorrow. Do not torment yourself with brooding. Gladness of heart is life to anyone. Joy is what gives length of days. Give your cares the slip, console your heart, chase sorrow far away. For sorrow has been the ruin of many, and is no use to anybody. Jealousy and anger shorten your days. and worry brings premature old age. A genial heart makes a good trencherman, someone who enjoys a good meal. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 31. The sleeplessness brought by wealth makes a person lose weight. The worry it causes drives away sleep. The worries of the daytime prevent you from sleeping. Like a serious illness, they keep sleep at bay. The rich forever toils, piling up money, and then, leaving off, he is gorged with luxuries. The poor forever toils, barely making a living, and then, leaving off, is poorer than ever. No one who loves money can easily avoid sinning. Whoever pursues profit will be corrupted by it. Gold has been the ruin of many. Their coming destruction was self-evident, since it is a snare for those who sacrifice to it, and stupid people all get caught in it. Happy the rich who is found to be blameless and does not go chasing after gold. Who is he, so that we can congratulate him? For he has achieved marvels among his fellows. Who has been through this test and emerged perfect? He may well be proud of that. Who has had the chance to sin and has not sinned, had the chance to do wrong and has not done it? His fortune will be firmly based, and the assembly will acclaim his generosity. If you are sitting down to a lavish table, do not display your greed. Do not say, "What a lot to eat!" Remember, it is bad to have a greedy eye. Is any creature more wicked than the eye? That is why it is always weeping. Do not reach out for anything your host has his eye on. Do not jostle him at the dish. Judge your fellow guests' needs by your own. Be thoughtful in every way. Eat what is offered you like a well-brought-up person. Do not wolf your food, or you will earn dislike. For politeness' sake be the first to stop. Do not act the glutton, or you will give offense. And if you are sitting with a large party, do not help yourself before the others do. A little is quite enough for a well-bred person. His breathing is easy when he lies in bed. A moderate diet ensures sound sleep. One gets up early, in the best of spirits. Sleeplessness, biliousness, and gripe are what the glutton has to endure. If you are forced to eat too much, get up, go and vomit, and you will feel better. Listen to me, my child. Do not disregard me. Eventually you will see the force of my words. Be moderate in all your activities, and illness will never overtake you. People praise the person who keeps a splendid table, and their opinion of his munificence is sound. But a niggardly host provokes universal resentment, and people will retail instances of his meanness. Do not play the valiant at your wine, for wine has been the undoing of many. The furnace proves the temper of steel, and wine proves hearts in the drinking bouts of braggarts. Wine gives life if drunk in moderation. What is life worth without wine? It came into being to make people happy. Drunk at the right time and in the right amount, wine makes for a glad heart and a cheerful mind. Bitterness of soul comes of wine drunk to excess out of temper or bravado. Drunkenness excites the stupid to a fury to his own harm. It reduces his strength while leading to blows. Do not provoke your fellow guest at a wine feast. Do not make fun of him when he is enjoying himself. Do not take him to task or annoy him by reclaiming money owed. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 32. Have they made you the presider? Do not let it go to your head. Behave like everyone else in the party. See that they are happy, and then sit down yourself. Having discharged your duties, take your place so that your joy may be through theirs, and you may receive the crown for your competence. Speak, old man, it is proper that you should, but with discretion. Do not spoil the music. If someone is singing, do not ramble on, and do not play the sage at the wrong moment. An amber seal on a precious stone, such as a concert of music at a wine feast. An emerald seal in a golden setting, such are strains of music with a vintage wine. Speak, young man, when you must, but twice at most, and then only if questioned. Keep to the point, say much in few words. Give the impression of knowing but not wanting to speak. Among eminent people do not behave as though you were their equal. Do not make frivolous remarks when someone else is speaking. Lightning comes before the thunder. Favor goes ahead of a modest person. Leave in good time, do not bring up the rear, and hurry home without loitering. There amuse yourself, and do what you have a mind to, but do not sin by arrogant talk. And for all this bless your Creator, who intoxicates you with His favors. Whoever fears the Lord will accept His correction. Those who look for Him will win His favor. Whoever seeks the law will be nourished by it. The hypocrite will find it a stumbling block. Those who fear the Lord win His approval, their good deeds shining like a light. The sinner waves reproof aside. He finds an excuse for headstrong behavior. A sensible person never scorns a warning. Foreigners and the proud do not know about fear. Never act without reflection, and you will not regret your actions. Do not venture on a rough road, for fear of stumbling over the stones. Do not be overconfident on an even road, and beware of your own children. Watch yourself in everything you do. This is also the way to keep the commandments. Anyone who trusts in the law obeys its precepts. No one who has confidence in the Lord will come to harm. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 33. No evil will befall one who fears the Lord. Such a one will be rescued even in the ordeal. No one who hates the law is wise. One who is hypocritical about it is like a storm-tossed ship. An intelligent person will put faith in the law. For such a one the law is as dependable as a prophecy. Prepare what you have to say and you will get a hearing. Marshal your information before you answer. The feelings of a fool are like a cartwheel. A fool's thought revolves like a turning axle. A rutting stallion is like a sarcastic friend. He neighs, whoever rides him. Why is one day better than another, though the sun gives the same daylight throughout the year? They have been differentiated in the mind of the Lord, who has diversified the seasons and feasts. Some He has made more important and has hallowed, others He has made ordinary days. Human beings come from the ground. Adam himself was formed out of earth. In the fullness of His wisdom the Lord has made distinctions between them, and diversified their conditions. Some of them He has blessed, hallowing and setting them near Him. Others He has cursed and humiliated by degrading them from their positions. Like clay in the hands of the potter to mold as it pleases him, so are human beings in the hands of their Maker to reward as He judges right. Opposite evil stands good, opposite death, life. So too opposite the devout stands the sinner. Contemplate all the works of the Most High. You will find they go in pairs, by opposites. Although the last to come, I have kept my eyes open like a man picking up what the grape pickers have left. By the blessing of the Lord I have come in first, and like a true grape picker have filled my wine press. And note, I have not been working merely for myself, but for all who seek instruction. Listen to me, important public figures, presidents of the assembly, give ear, neither to son nor wife, brother nor friend. Give power over yourself during your own lifetime, and do not give your property to anyone else, in case you regret it and have to ask for it back. As long as you live and there is breath in your body, do not yield power over yourself to anyone. Better for your children to come begging to you, than for you to have to go begging to them. In all you do be the master, and leave a reputation unstained. The day your life draws to a close, at the hour of death, then distribute your heritage. Fodder, the stick and burdens for a donkey, bread, discipline and work for a slave. Work your slave hard, and you will have peace of mind. Leave his hands idle, and he will be asking for his freedom. Yoke and harness will bow the neck, for a bad servant, torments and the rack. Set him to work, so that he will not be idle. Idleness teaches every kind of mischief. Keep him at his duties, where he should be. If he is disobedient, clap him in irons. But do not be over-exacting with anyone, and do nothing contrary to justice. You have only one slave? Treat him like yourself. since you have acquired him with blood. You have only one slave? Treat him as a brother, since you need him as you need yourself. If you ill-treat him and he runs away, which way will you go to look for him? Ecclesiasticus, chapter 34. Vain and deceptive hopes are for the foolish, and dreams lend wings to fools. As well clutch at shadows and chase the wind as put any faith in dreams. Dreams are no different from mirrors, confronting a face, the reflection of that face. What can be cleansed by uncleanness? What can be verified by falsehood? Divinations, auguries and dreams are nonsense, like the fantasies of a pregnant woman. Unless sent as emissaries from the Most High, do not give them a thought, for dreams have led many astray, and those who relied on them have come to grief. Fulfilling the law requires no such falsehood, and wisdom is perfected in veracity. A much-traveled man knows many things, and a man of great experience will talk sound sense. Someone who has never had his trials knows little, but the traveled man is master of every situation. I have seen many things on my travels. I have understood more than I can put into words. I have often been in danger of death, but I have been spared, and this is why. The spirit of those who fear the Lord can survive, for their hope is in someone with power to save them. No one who fears the Lord need ever hesitate, or ever be daunted, since the Lord is his hope. Happy the soul of one who fears the Lord. On whom does he rely? Who supports him? The eyes of the Lord watch over those who love him. He is their powerful protection and their strong support, their screen from the desert wind, their shelter from the midday sun, a guard against stumbling, an assurance against a fall. He revives the spirit and brightens the eyes. He gives health, life, and blessing. The sacrifice of an offering unjustly acquired is a mockery. The gifts of the impious are unacceptable. The Most High takes no pleasure in offerings from the godless. Multiplying sacrifices will not gain pardon for sin. Offering sacrifice from the property of the poor is as bad as slaughtering a son before his father's eyes. A meager diet is the very life of the poor. To deprive them of it is to commit murder. To take away a fellow man's livelihood is to kill him. To deprive an employee of his wages is to shed blood. If one person builds while another pulls down, what will they get out of it but trouble? If one person prays and another calls down a curse, to which one's voice is the master going to listen? If someone washes after touching a corpse, and then touches it again, what is the good of his washing? Just so with someone who fasts for sin, and then goes and commits it again. Who is going to hear that person's prayer? What is the good of the self-abasement? Ecclesiasticus, chapter 35. One who keeps the law multiplies offerings. One who follows the commandments offers communion sacrifices. Proof of gratitude is an offering of fine flour. Almsgiving a sacrifice of praise. To abandon wickedness is what pleases the Lord. To give up wrongdoing is an expiatory sacrifice. Do not appear empty-handed in the Lord's presence. For all these things are due under the commandment. The offering of the upright graces the altar, and its savor rises before the Most High. The sacrifice of the upright is acceptable. Its memorial will not be forgotten. Honor the Lord with generosity. Do not stint the first fruits you bring. Add a smiling face to all your gifts, and be cheerful as you dedicate your tithes. Give to the Most High as He has given to you, as generously as your means can afford. For the Lord is a good rewarder. He will reward you 7 times over. Do not try to bribe Him with presents. He will not accept them. Do not put your faith in wrongly motivated sacrifices. For the Lord is a judge who is utterly impartial. He never shows partiality to the detriment of the poor. He listens to the plea of the injured party. He does not ignore the orphan's supplication, nor the widow's as she pours out her complaint. Do the widow's tears not run down her cheeks, as she accuses the man who is the cause of them? Whoever wholeheartedly serves God will be accepted. His petitions will carry to the clouds. The prayer of the humble pierces the clouds, and until it does, he is not to be consoled, nor will he desist until the Most High takes notice of him, acquits the upright and delivers judgment. And the Lord will not be slow, nor will he be dilatory on their behalf, until he has crushed the loins of the merciless and exacted vengeance on the nations, until he has eliminated the hordes of the arrogant and broken the scepters of the wicked, until he has repaid all people as their deeds deserve and human actions as their intentions merit, until he has judged the case of his people and made them rejoice in his mercy. Mercy is welcome in time of trouble, like rain clouds in time of drought. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 36. Take pity on us, Master, Lord of the universe. Look at us. Spread fear of yourself throughout all other nations. Raise your hand against the foreign nations and let them see your might. As in their sight, you have proved yourself holy to us, so now, in our sight, prove yourself great to them. Let them acknowledge you, just as we have acknowledged that there is no God but you, Lord. Send new portents, do fresh wonders. Win glory for your hand and your right arm. Rouse your fury, pour out your rage, destroy the opponent, annihilate the enemy. Hasten the day, remember the oath, and let people tell of your mighty deeds. Let fiery wrath swallow up the survivor, and destruction overtake those who oppress your people. Crush the heads of hostile rulers who say, "There is no one else but us." Gather together all the tribes of Jacob. Restore them their heritage as at the beginning. Take pity, Lord, on the people called by your name, on Israel whom you have made your firstborn. Have compassion on your holy city, on Jerusalem, the place where you rest. Fill Zion with your praises and your sanctuary with your glory. Vindicate those whom you created first. Fulfill what has been prophesied in your name. Give those who wait for you their reward. Let your prophets be proved true. Grant, Lord, the prayer of your servants, in the terms of Aaron's blessing on your people, so that all the earth's inhabitants may acknowledge that you are the Lord, the everlasting God. The stomach takes in all kinds of food, but some foods are better than others. As the palate discerns the flavor of game, so a shrewd listener detects lying words. A perverse character causes depression in others. It needs experience to know how to repay such a one. A woman will accept any husband, but some daughters are better than others. A woman's beauty delights the beholder. A man likes nothing better. If her tongue is kind and gentle, her husband is the happiest of men. The man who takes a wife has the makings of a fortune, a helper to match himself, a pillar of support. When property has no fence, it is open to plunder. When a man has no wife, he is aimless and querulous. Will anyone trust an armed thief who flits from town to town? So it is with a man who has no nest, and lodges wherever night overtakes him. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 37. Any friend will say, "I am your friend too," but some friends are friends only in name. Is it not a deadly sorrow when a comrade or a friend turns enemy? O evil inclination! Why were you created? To cover the earth with deceit. One kind of comrade congratulates a friend in prosperity, but in time of trouble appears on the other side. One kind of comrade genuinely feels for a friend, and when it comes to a fight, springs to arms. Do not forget the genuine friend. Do not push him out of mind once you are rich. Any advisor will offer advice, but some are governed by self-interest. Beware of someone who offers advice. First find out what he wants himself, since his advice coincides with his own interest. In case he has designs on you and tells you, you are on the right road, but stands well clear to see what will happen to you. Do not consult anyone who looks at you askance. Conceal your plans from people jealous of you. Do not consult a woman about her rival, or a coward about war, a merchant about prices, or a buyer about selling, anyone mean about gratitude, or anyone selfish about kindness, a lazy fellow about any sort of work, or a casual worker about finishing a job, an idle servant about a major undertaking, do not rely on these for any advice, but have constant recourse to some devout person, whom you know to be a keeper of the commandments, whose soul matches your own, and who, if you go wrong, will be sympathetic. Finally, stick to the advice your own heart gives you. No one can be truer to you than that, since a person's soul often gives a clearer warning than 7 watchmen perched on a watchtower. And besides all this, beg the Most High to guide your steps into the truth. Reason should be the basis for every activity. Reflection must come before any undertaking. Thoughts are rooted in the heart, and this sends out 4 branches: good and evil, life and death, and mistress of them always is the tongue. One kind of person is clever at teaching others, yet is no good whatever to himself. Another, very eloquent, is detested and ends by starving to death, not having won the favor of the Lord, and being destitute of all wisdom. Another considers himself wise and proclaims his intellectual conclusions as certainties. But the truly wise instructs his people, and his intellectual conclusions are certainties. The wise is showered with blessings, and all who see him will call him happy. Human life lasts a number of days, but the days of Israel are beyond counting. The wise will earn confidence among the people. His name will live forever. During your life, my child, see what suits your constitution. Do not give it what you find disagrees with it. For not everything is good for everybody, nor does everybody like everything. Do not be insatiable for any delicacy. Do not be greedy for food. For overeating leads to illness and excess leads to liver attacks. Many people have died from overeating. Control yourself, and so prolong your life. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 38. Treat the doctor with the honor that is his due, in consideration of his services. For he too has been created by the Lord. Healing itself comes from the Most High, like a gift received from a king. The doctor's learning keeps his head high, and the great regard him with awe. The Lord has brought forth medicinal herbs from the ground, and no one sensible will despise them. Did not a piece of wood once sweeten the water, thus giving proof of its power? He has also given some people knowledge, so that they may draw credit from his mighty works. He uses these for healing and relieving pain. The druggist makes up a mixture from them. Thus, there is no end to his activities. Thanks to him, well-being exists throughout the world. My child, when you are ill, do not rebel, but pray to the Lord and he will heal you. Renounce your faults, keep your hands unsoiled, and cleanse your heart from all sin. Offer incense and a memorial of fine flour. Make as rich an offering as you can afford. Then let the doctor take over. The Lord created him too. Do not let him leave you, for you need him. There are times when good health depends on doctors, for they, in their turn, will pray the Lord to grant them the grace to relieve and to heal, and so prolong your life. Whoever sins in the eyes of his Maker, let such a one come under the care of the doctor. My child, shed tears over the dead, lament for the dead to show your sorrow, then bury the body with due ceremony and do not fail to honor the grave. Weep bitterly, beat your breast, observe the mourning the dead deserves for a day or two, to avoid censorious comment, and then be comforted in your sorrow. For grief can lead to death. A grief-stricken heart loses all energy. In affliction sorrow persists. A life of grief is hard to bear. Do not abandon your heart to grief. Drive it away. Bear your own end in mind. Do not forget, there is no coming back. You cannot help the dead, and you will harm yourself. Remember my doom, since it will be yours too. I yesterday, you today. Once the dead are laid to rest, let their memory rest. Do not fret for them, once their spirit departs. Leisure gives the scribe the chance to acquire wisdom. A man with few commitments can grow wise. How can the plowman become wise, whose sole ambition is to wield the goad, driving his oxen, engrossed in their work, his conversation limited to bullocks, his thoughts absorbed in the furrows he traces and his long evenings spent in fattening heifers. Similarly with all workmen and craftsmen, toiling day and night, those who engrave seals, forever trying to think of a new design, concentrating on catching a good likeness and staying up late to get the work done. Similarly with the blacksmith sitting by his anvil, he considers what to do with the pig iron. The breath of the fire scorches his skin, as he contends with the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer deafens him, his eyes are fixed on the pattern. He concentrates on getting the job done well and stays up late to apply the finishing touches. Similarly with the potter, sitting at his work, turning the wheel with his feet, constantly on the alert over his work, each flick of the finger premeditated. He pummels the clay with his arm, and with his feet he kneads it. He concentrates on applying the glaze right and stays up late to clean the kiln. All these people rely on their hands, and each is skilled at his own craft. A town could not be inhabited without them. There would be no settling, no traveling. But you will not find them in the parliament. They do not hold high rank in the assembly. They do not sit on the judicial bench, and they do not meditate on the law. They are not remarkable for their culture or judgment, nor are they found frequenting the philosophers. They sustain the structure of the world, and their prayer is concerned with their trade. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39. Not so with one who concentrates his mind and his meditation on the law of the Most High. He researches into the wisdom of all the ancients. He occupies his time with the prophecies. He preserves the discourses of famous men. He is at home with the niceties of parables. He researches into the hidden sense of proverbs. He ponders the obscurities of parables. He enters the service of princes. He is seen in the presence of rulers. He travels in foreign countries. He has experienced human good and human evil. At dawn and with all his heart he turns to the Lord his Creator. He pleads in the presence of the Most High. He opens his mouth in prayer and makes entreaty for his sins. If such be the will of the great Lord, he will be filled with the spirit of intelligence. He will shower forth words of wisdom, and in prayer give thanks to the Lord. He will grow upright in purpose and learning. He will ponder the Lord's hidden mysteries. He will display the instruction he has received, taking his pride in the law of the Lord's covenant. Many will praise his intelligence, and it will never be forgotten. His memory will not disappear. Generation after generation his name will live. Nations will proclaim his wisdom. The assembly will celebrate his praises. If he lives long, his name will be more glorious than 1,000 others. And if he dies, that will satisfy him just as well. And here are some more of my reflections. Yes, I am as full as the moon at the full. Listen to me, devout children, and blossom like the rose that grows on the bank of a watercourse. Give off a sweet smell like incense, flower like the lily, spread your fragrance abroad. Sing a song of praise blessing the Lord for all his works. Declare the greatness of his name. Proclaim his praise with song and with lyre. And this is how you must sing his praises. How wonderful the actions of the Lord! Whatever he orders is done at the proper time. You must not say, "What is this? Why is that?" There is a proper time for every question. At his word, the water stops and piles up high. At his voice, the watery reservoirs take shape. At his command, whatever he wants is done. No one can stop him if he intends to save. He can see whatever human beings are doing. Nothing can be hidden from his eye. His gaze stretches from eternity to eternity, and nothing can astonish him. You must not say, "What is this? Why is that?" For everything has been made for a purpose. As his blessing covers the dry land like a river and soaks it like a flood, so retribution is his legacy to the nations, just as he has turned fresh waters to salt. His ways are as smooth for the devout, as they are full of obstacles for the wicked. Good things were created from the beginning for good people, as bad ones were for sinners. The prime needs of human beings for living are water and fire, iron and salt, wheat flour, milk and honey, the juice of the grape, oil and clothing. All these are good for those who are good, but turn out bad for sinners. Some winds have been created for punishing. In his fury, he uses them as scourges. On the day of doom, they unleash their violence and appease the wrath of their Creator. Fire and hail, famine and death, have all been created for punishing. Wild animals' fangs, scorpions, vipers, the avenging sword for the ruin of the godless. All of them exult in discharging his orders, ready on earth whenever the need arises and, when their time comes, not falling short of his word. That is why I was determined from the outset, why I have pondered and why I have written. The works of the Lord are all good. When the time is right, he gives whatever is needed. You must not say, "This is worse than that," for sooner or later, everything proves its worth. So now, sing with all your heart and voice, and bless the name of the Lord. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 40. A hard lot has been created for human beings. A heavy yoke lies on the children of Adam from the day they come out of their mother's womb, till the day they return to the mother of them all. What fills them with foreboding and their hearts with fear is dread of the day of death. From the one who sits on a glorious throne to the wretch in dust and ashes, from the one who wears purple and a crown to the one dressed in sacking, all is fury and jealousy, turmoil and unrest, fear of death, rivalry, strife. And even at night while he rests on his bed, his sleep only gives a new twist to his worries. Scarcely has he lain down to rest, when in his sleep, as if in broad daylight, he is troubled with nightmares, like one who has escaped from a battle, and at the moment of rescue he wakes up, amazed that there was nothing to be afraid of. For all creatures, human and animal, and 7 times more for sinners, there is death and blood and strife and the sword, disasters, famine, affliction, plague. These things were all created for the wicked, and the flood came because of them. All that comes from the earth returns to the earth, and what comes from the water returns to the sea. All bribery and injustice will be blotted out, but good faith will stand forever. Ill-gotten wealth will vanish like a torrent, like the single thunderclap that heralds rain. When he opens his hand, he rejoices. By the same token, sinners come to ruin. The sprigs of the godless will not make many branches. Tainted roots find only hard rock. The reed that grows by every lake and river's edge is the first plant to be uprooted. Charity is a very paradise of blessing, and almsgiving endures forever. For a person of private means and one who works hard, life is pleasant, better off than either, one who finds a treasure. Children and the founding of a city perpetuate a name, more esteemed than either, a perfect wife. Wine and music cheer the heart. Better than either, the love of wisdom. Flute and harp add sweetness to a song. Better than either, a melodious voice. The eye longs for grace and beauty. Better than either, the green of spring corn. Friend or comrade, it is always well met. Better than either, a wife and husband. Brothers and allies are good in times of trouble. Better than either, almsgiving to the rescue. Gold and silver will steady your feet. More esteemed than either, good advice. Money and strength make a confident heart. Better than either, the fear of the Lord. With fear of the Lord, nothing is lacking. No need to seek for other help. Fear of the Lord is a paradise of blessing, a better protection than the highest reputation. My child, do not live by sponging off others. Better be dead than be a sponger. A life spent in eyeing someone else's table cannot be accounted a life at all. Other people's food defile the gullet. A wise, well-brought-up person will beware of doing this. What a sponger says may sound very sweet, but in his belly there burns a fire. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 41. O death, how bitter it is to remember you for someone peacefully living with his possessions, for someone with no worries and everything going well and who can still enjoy his food. O death, your sentence is welcome to one in want, whose strength is failing, to one worn out with age and 1,000 worries, resentful and impatient. Do not dread death's sentence. Remember those who came before you and those who will come after. This is the sentence passed on all living creatures by the Lord. So why object to what seems good to the Most High? Whether your life lasts 10 or 100 or 1,000 years, its length will not be held against you in Sheol. Hateful brats, such are the children of sinners, who foregather in the haunts of the godless. The inheritance of sinners' children is doomed to perish. Their posterity will endure lasting reproach. A godless father will be blamed by his children for the reproach he has brought on them. A bad outlook for you, godless people, who have forsaken the law of God Most High. When you were born to be accursed, and when you die, that curse will be your portion. All that comes from the earth returns to the earth. So too the wicked proceed from curse to destruction. Mourning concerns only the bodies of the dead, but the worthless name of sinners will be blotted out. Be careful of your reputation, for it will last you longer than 1,000 great hoards of gold. A good life lasts a certain number of days, but a good reputation lasts forever. Keep my instructions and be at peace, my children. Wisdom hidden away and treasure undisplayed. What use is either of these? Better someone who hides his folly than one who hides his wisdom. Preserve a sense of shame in the following matters. For not every kind of shame is right to harbor, nor is every situation correctly appraised by all. Be ashamed before father and mother of depraved behavior, and before prince or potentate of telling lies, of wrongdoing before judge or magistrate, and of impiety before the assembly of the people, of sharp practice before your companion and your friend, and of theft before the neighborhood you live in. Before the truth and covenant of God, be ashamed of leaning elbows on the table, of being ungracious when giving or receiving, of ignoring those who greet you, of gazing at a loose woman, of repulsing your fellow countrymen, of misappropriating another's portion or gift, of paying court to another man's wife, of making advances to a servant girl. Do not go near her bed, of saying disagreeable things to friends. Do not follow up a gift with a taunt, of repeating everything you hear and of betraying confidences. Then you will know what true shame is, and you will find yourself in everyone's graces. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 42. The following things you should not be ashamed of, and do not sin from fear of what others think, of the law of the Most High or of the covenant, of a verdict that acquits the godless, of keeping accounts with a traveling companion, of settling property on your friends, of being accurate over scales and weights, of making small and large profits, of gaining from commercial transactions, of disciplining your children strictly, of lashing a wicked slave till you draw blood. With an interfering wife, it is as well to use your seal, and where there are many hands, lock things up. Whatever stores you issue, do it by number and weight, spendings and takings. Put everything in writing. Do not be ashamed to correct a stupid person or a fool, or an old dotard who bickers with young people. Then you will show yourself really educated and win the approval of everyone. Unknown to her, a daughter keeps her father awake. The worry she gives him drives away his sleep. In her youth, in case she never married, in case she should be disliked, as a virgin, in case she should be defiled and found with child in her father's house, having a husband, in case she goes astray, married, in case she should be sterile. Your daughter is headstrong? Keep a sharp lookout that she does not make you the laughingstock of your enemies, the talk of the town, the object of common gossip, and put you to public shame. Do not stare at any man for his good looks. Do not sit down with women. For moth comes out of clothes, and woman's spite out of woman. Better a man's spite than a woman's kindness. Women give rise to shame and reproach. Next, I shall remind you of the works of the Lord, and tell of what I have seen. By the words of the Lord his works come into being, and all creation obeys his will. The shining sun looks down on all things, and the work of the Lord is full of his glory. The Lord has not granted the holy ones the power to tell of all his marvels which the Almighty Lord has solidly constructed for the universe to stand firm in his glory. He has fathomed both the abyss and the human heart and seen into their devious ways. For the Most High knows all there is to know and sees the signs of the times. He declares what is past and what will be, and reveals the trend of hidden things. Not a thought escapes him. Not a single word is hidden from him. He has embellished the magnificent works of his wisdom. He is from everlasting to everlasting. Nothing can be added to him, nothing taken away. He needs no one's advice. How lovely, all his works, how dazzling to the eye. They all live and last forever. And whatever the circumstances, all obey. All things go in pairs, by opposites. He has not made anything imperfect. One thing complements the excellence of another. Who could ever grow tired of gazing at his glory? Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43. Pride of the heights, a clear vault of the sky. Such is the beauty of the heavens, a glorious sight. The sun, as he emerges, proclaims at his rising. How wonderful a thing, the work of the Most High! At his zenith, he parches the ground. Who can withstand his blaze? We have to blow the furnace to produce any heat. The sun burns the mountains 3 times as much. Breathing out blasts of fire, flashing his rays, he dazzles the eyes. Great is the Lord who created him and whose word speeds him on his course. And then the moon, ever punctual to mark the times, an everlasting sign. It is the moon that signals the feasts, a luminary that wanes after being full. The month derives its name from hers. She waxes wonderfully in her phases, banner of the hosts on high, shining in the vault of heaven. The glory of the stars makes the beauty of the sky, a brilliant adornment of the Lord on high. At the words of the Holy One they stand as he decrees, and never grow slack at their watch. See the rainbow and praise its maker, so superbly beautiful in its splendor. Across the sky it forms a glorious arc drawn by the hands of the Most High. By his command he sends the snow, he speeds the lightning by his command. In the same way, his treasuries open and the clouds fly out like birds. His great power solidifies the clouds, then pulverizes them into hail. At the sight of him, the mountains quake. At his will the south wind blows, or the storm from the north and the whirlwind. At the roar of his thunder, the earth writhes in labor. He sprinkles snow like birds alighting. It comes down like locusts settling. The eye marvels at the beauty of its whiteness, and the mind is amazed at its falling. Over the earth, like salt, he also pours hoarfrost, which, when it freezes, bristles like thorns. The cold wind blows from the north, and ice forms on the water. It forms on every piece of standing water, covering it like a breastplate. The wind swallows up the mountains and scorches the desert. Like a fire it consumes the vegetation. But cloud brings swift healing, and dew brings joy after the heat. By his own resourcefulness he has tamed the abyss, and planted it with islands. Those who sail the sea tell of its dangers. Their accounts fill our ears with amazement. For there too exist strange and wonderful works, animals of every kind and huge sea creatures. Thanks to God, his messenger reaches port. Everything works out according to his word. We could say much more and still fall short. To put it concisely, he is all. Where shall we find sufficient power to glorify him? Since he is the Great One, above all his works, the awe-inspiring Lord, stupendously great and wonderful in his power. Exalt the Lord in your praises as high as you may. Still he surpasses you. Exert all your strength when you exalt him. Do not grow tired. You will never come to the end. Who has ever seen him to describe him? Who can glorify him as he deserves? Many mysteries remain even greater than these, for we have seen only a few of his works, the Lord himself having created all things and given wisdom to those who are devout. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 44. Next let us praise illustrious men, our ancestors in their successive generations. The Lord has created an abundance of glory, and displayed his greatness from earliest times. Some wielded authority as kings and were renowned for their strength. Others were intelligent advisers and uttered prophetic sayings. Others directed the people by their advice, by their understanding of the popular mind, and by the wise words of their teaching. Others composed musical melodies and set down ballads. Others were rich and powerful, living peacefully in their homes. All these were honored by their contemporaries and were the glory of their day. Some of them left a name behind them, so that their praises are still sung, while others have left no memory, and disappeared as though they had not existed. They are now as though they had never been, and so too, their children after them. But here is a list of illustrious men whose good works have not been forgotten. In their descendants they find a rich inheritance. Their posterity, their descendants stand by the commandments, and, thanks to them, so do their children's children. Their offspring will last forever. Their glory will not fade. Their bodies have been buried in peace, and their name lives on for all generations. The peoples will proclaim their wisdom. The assembly will celebrate their praises. Enoch pleased the Lord and was transferred to heaven, an example for the conversion of all generations. Noah was found perfectly upright. In the time of retribution he became the heir. Because of him a remnant was preserved for the earth at the coming of the flood. Everlasting covenants were made with him that never again should every living creature perish by flood. Abraham, the great ancestor of a host of nations, no one was ever his equal in glory. He observed the law of the Most High, and entered into a covenant with him. He confirmed the covenant in his own flesh, and proved himself faithful under ordeal. The Lord therefore promised him on oath to bless the nations through his descendants, to multiply him like the dust on the ground, to exalt his descendants like the stars, and to give them the land as their heritage, from one sea to the other, from the river to the ends of the earth. To Isaac too, for the sake of Abraham his father, he assured the blessing of all humanity. He caused the covenant to rest on the head of Jacob. He confirmed him in his blessings and gave him the land as his inheritance. He divided it into portions, and shared it out among the 12 tribes. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 45. From Jacob's stock he produced a generous man who found favor in the eyes of all humanity, beloved by God and people, Moses, of blessed memory. He made him the equal of the holy ones in glory and made him strong, to the terror of his enemies. By the word of Moses, he made prodigies cease and raised him high in the respect of kings. He gave him commandments for his people, and showed him something of his glory. For his loyalty and gentleness he sanctified him, choosing him alone out of all human beings. He allowed him to hear his voice, and led him into the darkness. He gave him the commandments face to face, the law of life and knowledge, to teach Jacob his ordinances and Israel his decrees. He raised up Aaron, a holy man like Moses, his brother, of the tribe of Levi. He made an everlasting covenant with him, and gave him the priesthood of the people. He adorned him with impressive vestments. He dressed him in a robe of glory. He clothed him in glorious perfection and invested him with rich ornaments, the breeches, the long robe, the ephod. To surround the robe he gave him pomegranates, and many gold bells all round to chime at every step, for their sound to be heard in the temple as a reminder to the children of his people, and a sacred vestment of gold and aquamarine and scarlet, the work of an embroiderer, the pectoral of judgment, the Urim and Thummim, of plaited crimson, the work of a craftsman, precious stones cut like seals mounted in gold, the work of a jeweler, as a reminder with their engraved inscriptions of the number of the tribes of Israel, and a golden diadem on his turban, engraved with the seal of consecration. Superb ornamentation, magnificent work, adornment to delight the eye. There had never been such lovely things before him, and no one else has ever put them on, but only his own sons and his descendants for all time. His sacrifices were to be burnt entirely, twice each day and forever. Moses consecrated him and anointed him with holy oil. And this was an everlasting covenant for him, and for his descendants as long as the heavens endure, that he should preside over worship, act as priest, and bless the people in the name of the Lord. He chose him out of all the living to offer sacrifices to the Lord, incense and perfume as a memorial to make expiation for the people. He entrusted him with his commandments, committed to him the statutes of the law for him to teach Jacob his decrees and enlighten Israel on his law. Others plotted against him. They were jealous of him in the desert, Dathan and Abiram and their men, Korah and his crew in fury and rage. The Lord saw it and was displeased. His raging fury made an end of them. He worked miracles on them, consuming them by his flaming fire. And he added to Aaron's glory, he gave him an inheritance. He allotted him the offerings of the firstfruits, before all else, as much bread as he could want. Thus they eat the sacrifices of the Lord which he gave to him and his posterity. But of the people's territory he inherits nothing. He alone of all the people has no share, for I myself am your share and heritage. Phinehas son of Eleazar is third in glory because of his zeal in the fear of the Lord, because he stood firm when the people revolted, with a staunch and courageous heart, and in this way made expiation for Israel. Hence a covenant of peace was sealed with him, making him governor of both sanctuary and people, and securing to him and his descendants the high priestly dignity forever. There was also a covenant with David son of Jesse, of the tribe of Judah, a royal succession by exclusively linear descent, but the succession of Aaron passes to all his descendants. May God endow your hearts with wisdom to judge his people uprightly, so that the virtues of your ancestors may never fade, and their glory may pass to all their descendants. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 46. Mighty in war was Joshua son of Nun, successor to Moses in the prophetic office, who well deserved his name, and was a great savior of the chosen people, wreaking vengeance on the enemies who opposed him, and so bringing Israel into its inheritance. How splendid he was when, arms uplifted, he brandished his sword against cities. Who had ever shown such determination as his? He himself led the battles of the Lord. Was not the sun held back by his hand, and one day drawn out into two? He called on the Most High, the Mighty One, while pressing the enemies from all directions, and the great Lord answered him with hard and violent hailstones. He fell on that enemy nation, and at the descent destroyed all resistance to make the nations acknowledge his warlike prowess and that he was waging war on behalf of the Lord. For he was a follower of the Mighty One. In the time of Moses showing his devotion, he and Caleb son of Jephunneh, by opposing the whole community, by preventing the people from sinning, and by silencing the mutters of rebellion. Hence these two alone were preserved out of 600,000 men on the march, and brought into their inheritance, into a land where milk and honey flow. And the Lord conferred strength on Caleb too, which stayed by him into old age, so that he could invest the highlands of the country which his descendants kept as their inheritance, so that every Israelite might see that it is good to follow the Lord. The judges too, each when he was called, all men whose hearts were never disloyal, who never turned their backs on the Lord, may their memory be blessed. May their bones flourish again from the tomb, and may the names of those illustrious men be worthily borne by their sons. Samuel was the beloved of his Lord, prophet of the Lord. He instituted the kingdom, and anointed rulers over his people. By the law of the Lord he judged the assembly, and the Lord watched over Jacob. By his loyalty he was recognized as a prophet. By his words he was known to be a trustworthy seer. He called on the Lord, the Mighty One, when his enemies pressed in from all directions, by offering a sucking lamb. And the Lord thundered from heaven, and made his voice heard in a rolling peal. He massacred the leaders of the enemy, and all the rulers of the Philistines. Before the time of his everlasting rest he bore witness to the Lord and his anointed. Of no property, not even a pair of sandals, have I ever deprived a soul, nor did anyone accuse him. And having fallen asleep, he prophesied again, warning the king of his end. He spoke from the depths of the earth in prophecy, to blot out the wickedness of the people. Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 47. After him arose Nathan, to prophesy in the time of David. As the fat is set apart from the communion sacrifice, so was David chosen out of the Israelites. He played with lions as though with kids, and with bears as though with lambs. While still a boy, did he not slay the giant and take away the people's shame, by hurling a stone from his sling and cutting short the boasting of Goliath? For he called on the Lord Most High, who gave strength to his right arm to put a mighty warrior to death and assert the strength of his own people. Hence they gave him credit for 10,000, and praised him while they blessed the Lord, by offering him a crown of glory. For he destroyed the enemies on every front. He annihilated his foes, the Philistines, and crushed their strength forever. In all his activities he gave thanks to the Holy One Most High in words of glory. He put all his heart into his songs out of love for his Creator. He placed singers before the altar, melodiously to sing. He gave the feasts their splendor, the festivals their solemn pomp, causing the Lord's holy name to be praised and the sanctuary to resound from dawn. The Lord took away his sins, making his strength ever greater. He gave him a royal covenant, and a glorious throne in Israel. A wise son succeeded him, who lived content, thanks to him. Solomon reigned in a time of peace, and God gave him peace all round so that he could raise a house to his name and prepare an everlasting sanctuary. How wise you were despite your youth, like a river, brimming over with intelligence. Your mind ranged the earth. You filled it with mysterious sayings. Your name reached the distant islands, and you were loved for your peace. Your songs, your proverbs, your sayings and your answers were the wonder of the world. In the name of the Lord God, of him who is called the God of Israel, you amassed gold like so much tin, and made silver as common as lead. You abandoned your body to women. You became the slave of your appetites. You stained your honor, you profaned your stock, so bringing retribution on your children and affliction for your folly. The empire split in two, from Ephraim arose a rebel kingdom. But the Lord never goes back on his mercy, never cancels any of his words, will neither deny offspring to his elect nor stamp out the line of the man who loved him. And hence, he has granted a remnant to Jacob and to David a root sprung from him. Solomon rested with his ancestors, leaving one of his stock as his successor, the stupidest member of the nation, brainless Rehoboam, who drove the people to rebel. Next, Jeroboam son of Nebat, who made Israel sin, and set Ephraim on the way of evil. From then on their sins multiplied so excessively as to drive them out of their country, for they tried out every kind of wickedness, until vengeance overtook them. Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 48. Then the prophet Elijah arose like a fire, his word flaring like a torch. It was he who brought famine on them and decimated them in his zeal. By the word of the Lord he shut up the heavens. 3 times also he brought down fire. How glorious you were in your miracles, Elijah! Has anyone reason to boast as you have? Rousing a corpse from death, from Sheol, by the word of the Most High, dragging kings down to destruction, and high dignitaries from their beds. Hearing a rebuke on Sinai and decrees of punishment on Horeb, anointing kings as avengers, and prophets to succeed you, taken up in the whirlwind of fire, in a chariot with fiery horses, designated in the prophecies of doom to allay God's wrath before the fury breaks, to turn the hearts of fathers towards their children, and to restore the tribes of Jacob. Blessed, those who will see you, and those who have fallen asleep in love, for we too shall certainly have life. Such was Elijah, who was enveloped in a whirlwind, and Elisha was filled with his spirit. Throughout his life no ruler could shake him, and no one could subdue him. No task was too hard for him, and even in death his body prophesied. In his lifetime he performed wonders, and in death his works were marvelous. Despite all this the people did not repent, nor did they give up their sins, until they were herded out of their country and scattered all over the earth. Only a few of the people were left, with a ruler of the house of David. Some of them did what pleased the Lord, others piled sin on sin. Hezekiah fortified his city, and laid on a water supply inside it. With iron he tunneled through the rock and constructed storage tanks. In his days Sennacherib invaded and sent Rabshakeh. He lifted his hand against Zion, and boasted loudly in his arrogance. Then their hearts and hands trembled. They felt the pangs of a woman in labor, but they called on the merciful Lord, stretching out their hands towards him. Swiftly the Holy One heard them from heaven and delivered them by the agency of Isaiah. He struck the camp of the Assyrians, and his angel annihilated them. For Hezekiah did what is pleasing to the Lord, and was steadfast in the ways of David his father, enjoined on him by the prophet Isaiah, a great man trustworthy in his vision. In his days the sun moved back. He prolonged the life of the king. In the power of the Spirit he saw the last things. He comforted the mourners of Zion. He revealed the future to the end of time, and hidden things long before they happened. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 49. The memory of Josiah is like blended incense prepared by the perfumer's art. It is as sweet as honey to all mouths, and like music at a wine feast. He took the right course of converting the people. He rooted out the iniquitous abominations. He set his heart on the Lord. In godless times he upheld the cause of religion. Apart from David, Hezekiah, and Josiah, they all heaped wrong on wrong. They abandoned the law of the Most High. The kings of Judah disappeared, for they handed their power over to others and their honor to a foreign nation. The holy, chosen city was burnt down. Her streets were left deserted, as Jeremiah had predicted. For they had ill-treated him, though consecrated a prophet in his mother's womb, to tear up and afflict and destroy, but also to build up and to plant. Ezekiel saw a vision of glory which God showed to him above the chariot of the great winged creatures. For he mentioned the enemies in the downpour to the advantage of those who follow the right way. As for the 12 prophets, may their bones flower again from the tomb, since they have comforted Jacob and redeemed him in faith and hope. How shall we extol Zerubbabel? He was like a signet ring on the right hand. So too was Joshua son of Jozadak. They who in their days built the temple and raised a sanctuary sacred to the Lord, destined to everlasting glory. Great too is the memory of Nehemiah, who rebuilt our walls which lay in ruins, erected the bolted gates and rebuilt our houses. No one else has ever been created on earth to equal Enoch, for he was taken up from earth. And no one else ever born has been like Joseph, the leader of his brothers, the prop of his people. His bones received a visitation. Shem and Seth were the most honored of men, but above every living creature is Adam. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 50. It was the high priest Simon son of Onias who repaired the temple during his lifetime, and in his day fortified the sanctuary. He laid the foundations of double depth, the high buttresses of the temple precincts. In his day the pool was excavated, a reservoir as huge as the sea. Anxious to save the people from ruin, he fortified the city against siege. How splendid he was with the people thronging round him, when he emerged from the curtained shrine, like the morning star among the clouds, like the moon at the full, like the sun shining on the temple of the Most High, like the rainbow gleaming against brilliant clouds, like a rose in springtime, like a lily by a spring, like a branch of the incense tree in summer, like fire and incense in the censer, like a massive golden vessel encrusted with every kind of precious stone, like an olive tree, loaded with fruit, like a cypress soaring to the clouds. When he took his ceremonial robe and put on his magnificent ornaments, when he went up to the holy altar and filled the sanctuary precincts with his grandeur, when he received the portions from the hands of the priests, himself standing by the altar hearth, crowned with the circle of his brothers, as a cedar of Lebanon is by its foliage, as though surrounded by the trunks of palm trees. When all the sons of Aaron in their glory, with the offerings of the Lord in their hands, stood before the whole assembly of Israel, while he completed the rites at the altars, nobly presenting the offerings to the Almighty, Most High, he would reach out his hand to the cup and pour a libation of wine, pouring it at the foot of the altar, a fragrance pleasing to the Most High, King of all. Then the sons of Aaron would shout and blow their metal trumpets, making a mighty sound ring out as a reminder before the Most High, and immediately the people all together would fall on their faces to the ground, in adoration of their Lord, the Almighty God Most High, and with the cantors chanting their hymns of praise. Sweet was the melody of all these voices, as the people pleaded with the Lord Most High and prayed in the presence of the Merciful, until the service of the Lord was completed and the ceremony at an end. Then he would come down and raise his hands over the whole assembly of the Israelites, to give them the Lord's blessing from his lips, being privileged to pronounce his name. And once again the people would bow low to receive the blessing of the Most High. And now bless the God of all things, the doer of great deeds everywhere, who has exalted our days from the womb and has acted mercifully towards us. May he grant us cheerful hearts and bring peace in our time, in Israel for ages on ages. May his mercy be faithfully with us. May he redeem us in our own times. There are two nations that my soul detests. The third is not a nation at all. The inhabitants of Mount Seir, the Philistines, and the stupid people living at Shechem. Instruction in wisdom and knowledge is what has been written in this book by Jesus son of Sirach Eliezer of Jerusalem, who has poured a rain of wisdom from his heart. Blessed is he who devotes his time to these and grows wise by taking them to heart. If he practices them, he will be strong enough for anything, since the light of the Lord is his path. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 51. I shall give thanks to you, Lord and King, and praise you, God my Savior. I give thanks to your name. For you have been my guard and support and redeemed my body from destruction, from the snare of the lying tongue, from lips that fabricate falsehood. In the presence of my assailants, you were on my side. You have been my support, you have redeemed me, true to your abounding kindness and the greatness of your name. You liberated me from the fangs of those seeking to devour me, from the clutches of those seeking my life, from the many ordeals which I have endured, from the stifling heat which hemmed me in, from the heart of a fire which I had not kindled, from deep in the belly of Sheol, treacherous denunciations to the king. My soul has been close to death. My life had gone down to the brink of Sheol. I was completely surrounded. There was no one to help me. I looked for someone to help me. There was no one. Then I remembered your mercy, Lord, and your deeds from earliest times, how you deliver those who wait for you patiently, and save them from the clutches of their enemies. And I sent up my plea from the earth. I begged to be delivered from death. I called on the Lord, the Father of my Lord. Do not desert me in the days of ordeal, in the days of the proud, when we are helpless. I shall praise your name unceasingly and gratefully sing its praises. And my plea was heard, for you saved me from destruction. You delivered me from that time of evil. And therefore I shall thank you and praise you, and bless the name of the Lord. When I was still a youth, before I went traveling, in my prayers I asked outright for wisdom. Outside the sanctuary I would pray for her, and to the last I shall continue to seek her. From her blossoming to the ripening of her grape, my heart has taken its delight in her. My foot has pursued a straight path. I have sought her ever since my youth. By bowing my ear a little, I have received her, and have found much instruction. Thanks to her I have advanced. Glory be to him who has given me wisdom. For I was determined to put her into practice, have earnestly pursued the good, and shall not be put to shame. My soul has fought to possess her. I have been scrupulous in keeping the law. I have stretched out my hands to heaven and bewailed how little I knew of her. I have directed my soul towards her, and in purity I have found her. Having my heart fixed on her from the outset, I shall never be deserted. My very core having yearned to discover her, I have now acquired a good possession. In reward the Lord has given me a tongue with which I shall sing his praises. Come close to me, you ignorant. Take your place in my school. Why complain about lacking these things when your souls are so thirsty for them? I have opened my mouth, I have said, buy her without money, put your necks under her yoke, let your souls receive instruction, She is near within your reach. See for yourselves. How slight my efforts have been to win so much peace. By instruction with a large sum of silver, thanks to her you will gain much gold. May your souls rejoice in the mercy of the Lord. May you never be ashamed of praising Him. Do your work before the appointed time, and at the appointed time He will give you your reward. Subscript. Wisdom of Jesus, son of Sirach.